I want to be younger.
Just make sure, I think when you speak, to make sure to take your mask down. If you can't speak loudly with it up.
Okay, we're going to have microphones or?
No, she's got a mic right there, right?
Mm-hmm. It's not super great, but I mean, we could kind of hear the people in the back when they were speaking, so it's not, but it's better than fighting with everything else, so.
So what we talked about doing was you calling on people that are supposed to take their mask off.
Right.
And those of you that are speaking, try to go slow it down a little bit. You know, let's take our time and just try to get through it, okay? We were just getting so much audio feedback, echo and all that other stuff. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna put my earbuds in and listen on this one to see if I can hear, how I can hear it. But, so I might give y'all some signals after a minute or two. But you guys are ready to go.
Okay. Let's call the meeting to order here. And we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, looks like we have a quorum. Jerry, again, a couple of visitors in the back, so good. So on July 15th, we had an executive session after our regular session in which we made some decisions regarding real estate. So those decisions have been acknowledged in the minutes of that meeting, but we did not come back into a regular session to acknowledge having a meeting. So that is what this bullet item is, just to acknowledge that we have an executive session on July 15th. Any other questions about that? Jim?
I think the rules actually state that we should summarize what the actions were that we took without revealing any personal information or contractual information.
Right, and so we voted on on the sale of 2 tracts of land. So, both of those were approved.
And should we name those tracts of land or lots those are?
I don't think you have to, we haven't in the past, we went and reviewed it, so.
Well, I'll say that I disagree with that. That's up to this group.
So noted. Okay, let's go to our minutes from the June 15th meeting. Once again, an incredibly thorough job of the minutes. How many pages is this? And I'm sure Jim's already received some input and corrected those, right?
Yeah, those were all, I think there was 2 or 3 things, and those were all changed. So hopefully, those of you that sent those revisions to me looked it over and saw that. So hopefully, everybody that has sent me revisions looked at these minutes for those particular things and thought that they were acceptable.
Okay, thank you. Any other changes to the minutes? Do we have a motion to approve? Okay, Randy, what is Randy in there? Mask man? Do we have a second? Okay, Sam, any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that passes. Minutes are approved. Okay, so that leads us to a member request. Jacob Crawl, or is that Jacob back there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and I think Charlie asked him to be about 5 minutes or less. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Report. All right, very good.
Well, I'll definitely be under 5 minutes, pretty simple. Obviously, we had another 45 minutes of 50-minute debate just over a month ago. We, my partner and I entered into late lease of a lot for $2,160 plus the $1,000 HOA application. And of course, Nita is not here again, which is fine, but she looked at the entire deal. She filled out all the paperwork for us. She said this is exactly the way that we do it. You guys have both have golf privileges and privileges throughout the lake community. And then we went into a very long drawn out debate on that, which is fine. My partner is seeking a prorated refund. I'll go ahead and hand these out so you guys can follow along. Pretty simple, straightforward. Well, thank you guys. I'm just very grateful to be here talking in front of you guys. Hopefully we can come up with a mutually beneficial resolution to this. So we signed the contract with the owner of the lot on April 14th. We paid her in full. We put down our $1,000 HOA deposit for a total of $3,160. That equates to $1,508 per person. Steve had unrestricted golf privileges, lake privileges. He had his member card. Everything was fine up until May 1st, 2020, at which those privileges were revoked. We had 16 days of privileges, and it's now been revoked for prorated moving forward for 349 days based off the 365-day calendar year. So if you take what he paid for those privileges, 1,580 divided by 365, equates to $4.33 per day. So it's pretty simple math. 349 days of which he has not been able to or will not be able to enjoy those privileges at $4.33 per day equals a $1,511.17 refund request. So that's what I would like for you guys to discuss amongst yourselves or take a vote on.
Jacob, is there any reason to believe you won't get the HOA deposit back?
None whatsoever. Anytime I charge anything at the pro shop or at the lodge, I pay cash or a debit card with.
And did you give him, since now you're the member, did you pay him his half of that deposit?
No, I have not.
But you fully expect it to be repaid to you at the end of this year?
Well, it depends on what you guys rule on, but yeah, I mean, we both pay cash or debit everywhere we go. We don't charge anything to the HOA. I'm sorry, towards our deposit or pay as you go.
Okay. Jim, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm a question, Jake. This 2160 lot lease, did you continue to lease this lot?
Correct.
You will continue to lease it at that amount?
Correct. I have a contract that's been paid in full.
So whether there's two people in it or one person, it's the same amount. So refunding that portion to me doesn't make sense.
How do you mean?
Well, you're gonna keep the lot, you would have leased the lot anyhow, I suppose.
No, I would not.
Okay, so you're gonna give up the lot now, lease now?
No, there's nothing in this spreadsheet or sheet that says I want to give up my privileges to the lot. What I would like is for my partner to be made full and well again. For the investment that we make.
I got
Did you talk to the owner about backing out of the lease?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Well, because this entire deal would not have been structured the way that it was if it wasn't written off on by POA. If we only knew that one of us were going to get golf privileges, we would have never entered into this agreement to begin with. That's why.
Did you get a packet of the rules and procedures? Do we do that to tenants? Do they give a technically the rules and procedures, but I would assume so.
Yeah, absolutely. Initially, I reviewed everything, which I did thoroughly before entering.
Okay, and you missed that part about one member.
Well, that's what we spent 45 minutes to almost an hour discussing last time I was here.
Sorry. I was trying to listen by Zoom, and I really couldn't hear anything but what you said. Okay. Another question. And
How many rounds of golf did the department play before this came to light as the comment known as that number?
That's a great question. He would typically join us 2 to 3 times a week, maybe once or twice. He travels a lot as well, so he's only in the state for 2 weeks or so out of the month. So he probably golfs 5 to 6 times a month, or wouldn't you say? At least
4 times last week.
Well, yeah, he did golf a lot last week.
So he's really getting a lot of rounds of golf, not having to play for it.
No, he's been paying.
He's been paying for it since May 1st. He's probably paid, I'd say June, July, 15 rounds of golf at $40 a person. If you're lucky, he's probably paid at least $600 or $700 in green fees over the last few months. Which is good. He's contributing to the TOA, just like I did before I entered into this lease agreement. I spent close to $3,000 on golf in less than 7 months.
Okay. Anybody have any further comments on this?
I'll make a comment. I think that's very good. But I'm sitting here going, if you were giving up the lot, I believe, and you had a penalty for getting out of that, or and you decide you want to maintain and keep it yourself, you add those privileges that go with that lot for yourself, just like you would pay normally. And the HOA deposit would be there normally. And so, if you're not doing that, I don't see there's a penalty.
Well, that's a good question, but I would have never entered into this agreement if it wasn't structured the way that it was through NIA, where we both had privileges. That's the thing, and I still wouldn't do this today. I wouldn't, because I travel a lot as well, and it may or may not equal out, I don't know, but the point is, we would have never entered into this bona fide contract with the property owner if we weren't instructed by Nina that we both had golf privileges. She wasn't here last time, and now she's not here today, so.
What did you say you paid for golf last year?
Well, I would say over the last, 6 to 7 months, I probably paid close to $3,000 in the green fee.
So this is actually saving you money. That's why you entered, right?
Yeah, that's why we both did.
And you thought maybe by splitting it up, it'd be cheaper.
Correct.
Right. And
Sometimes I travel. I mean, I
and
can
we
be
had
here.
36 people join in to lease a lot. Would that be reasonable for all 36?
That seems extremely nonsensical. But if I was married to Steve, I went to Oklahoma yesterday and got a marriage certificate, it would be completely legitimized through
Exactly.
what I can tell.
Yeah, that's the way we wrote the rules. We know things are changing, and so we did try to address that situation. But a business partnership, that was never the intent, and I think the rules are pretty clear. Now, our employee may not have been. So personally, from my standpoint, if you had gone to the owner of the lot and tried to get out and figured out what the cost would be, I would be willing to consider some payment there. But for you not to approach the owner at all about getting out of the lease now that you understood things better, I'm just not
Well,
so
depending on how
inclined.
things work out tonight, that may happen tomorrow.
Okay,
But that's the whole reason I'm here tonight, is because Steve said he wanted a prorated refund. I'm representing my best interest and his best interest as well.
right.
Does that make sense?
Thank you. Do we have any other comments, or do we have a motion on this particular issue?
I'll make a motion that we deny the specific request that was presented.
Sam seconds that. Any further comments or questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
In favor of what?
Of Jim's motion.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody opposed Jim's motion? Steve? If the motion passes 7-0. Now, if you do try to back out of the thing, you want to come back next month, let us know and we'll get you on the agenda then.
Okay. Thank you for your time. I'm agreeing to turn with you.
Okay, financial update from Clark.
This for end of month June, which is also the end of our fiscal year. So I'm going through this. I've made some notes to myself, and hopefully we all kind of looked at year-to-date numbers as well as the monthly numbers on our reports. There we go. Bottom line numbers, revenues for June, the actual was 406, budgeted was 404, so we're $2,000 over budget. Expenses were 522 versus a June budget of 482, so we were $40,000 over budget on the expense side. For a month, actual net revenue loss for the month of 115,500 versus a June budget that was supposed to only have been 77,500. Actual to budget on the expense side was 40,000, and with the $2,000 credit up on the revenue side, that made it a $38,000 actual to budget month. Year to date, actual to budget year to date on the revenue side was a positive 72,500. On the expense side was a negative 18,247. Now that is not bad when you shut down the lodge in March, gentlemen and ladies. Net revenue loss for the year, or gain for the year, was 54,227. On the revenue side, building permits for the month were up due to some new home construction and member activity. Newsletter ads were up also $2,210, new and renewed ads. And green fees were up $1,664 due to the increased guests for the month and the relaxing of some of our rules regarding use of POA facilities, which affected the golf course in that regard. I had asked that this be put on there and it didn't make it. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to advance it?
No, I got it.
Okay.
This is not on there, but food and beverage, we've been watching that since March. Food and beverage was a negative $5,640. That was it. That's a pretty good month compared to prior months. $5,640. Less a budget, $5,640 is all. That's not bad. That's a good month, given where we were. On the expense side, this is where it gets real interesting. Sanitation, that $5,061 is for the pavilion dumpster, and that is 3 months of the construction dumpster at the pavilion. That was not in the construction budget, and so we had agreed prior to all that to pick that up. So it's $5,000 for 3 months. Yeah, that's not bad. Not bad. On the golf course expenses were under 18,234, or over 18,224 due to chemicals and fertilizer, salary, and equipment repair. Year to date on the golf course, okay? Take a look at that if you will. Year to date on the golf course is going to be over budget $56,300. Most of that is water, salaries, and chemical and fertilizer.
So our chemical, and we're gonna consider something here in a little bit that Randy Romine is gonna bring into us. Chemical and fertilizer were a pretty substantial number in that over budget. Okay? Lake and parks, or parks and lake, was almost 18,800 over budget. That's due to fish stocking, lake management. Lake management, for y'all's information, is our survey contractor. That's what lake management is. Equipment repair and tree maintenance. And so that tree maintenance comes into play when we have all the storms. That's what that's all about. And that was a pretty sizable number. However, year to date, Parks and Lake was only over budget $9,100, mostly due to tree maintenance, year to date. Roads and bridges, over budget, almost $10,000. That was road materials and microseal and culvert and bridge, and that culvert and bridge piece is the cart bridges. I think Charlie has purchased the material to do, well, we did that one bridge on 13 and we got 2 bridges to go, right, Charlie? You purchased that material, and that's what that is. Year to date, road and bridge is $14,650 over budget. Most of that is culvert and bridges, and I suspect that, and Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, that culvert piece of that is the drainage, some drainage issues that we pulled out of O&M. And that put us at 14,000 over. Is that right? Got it. Next item is the golf professional. That's about a $5,000 over budget there. And that is his contract. Year to date, golf professional is flat, 0. Okay, so that made up his contract for the year. What that was. All right. Also, another year to date thing for you to note, and all of this is in the numbers that you got, is administration. Year to date was over budget, only $11,250, and the plethora of that was our general insurance, big number, which is very difficult to estimate when you're starting a year, but you try, but you know, it's hit or miss. General insurance, not health insurance. That's probably going to be P&C and D&O, right? ARF balance is $1,523,000, up 85.9. CARF balance, number right there. CARF balance was 587,926, up 127,000. Capital development balance is 0. Charlie, I don't know whether you can answer this question or not, but the question was posed. I'm find it, here it is. ARF had 57,127 in contributions and is up $86,000. How does that happen? And we spent 25,000.
Yeah. Susan has a series of debits and credit when it comes to cash, okay, because we only have one cash account, and that's the O&M cash account. So she'll bring money in from some of the other reserve funds investments, and we'll, you know, cash is going both directions. So in this case, what I'm assuming, and I'll have to verify it, is
there's probably some closing entries that need to be made.
She brought in the actual reserve, the actual final reserve fund numbers are always a month behind because she trues up cash the month after that. So, and actually, if you look on whatever the page here with the, let's see what page it is.
Well,
13, it's got cash balances,
yep,
all accounts.
Yep.
So you look at all these numbers and it's coming in and out. The other thing, and can you all hear me okay with my mask on? Randy, can you hear me? Okay. What is complicated this year is the whole cash flow involving the pavilion.
And I was going to say, because of that CARF balance of 127, that looks like a pavilion number.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of movement going around between the different funds because as the CDs, and those of y'all that have to sign the CDers and the CDs know, that stuff's always coming due and you have to re-sign it, you have to take it from one account to the other account. So I think that's probably what happened on that.
That's your answer. I'll
Yeah.
true that.
Yeah. And so that's,
I mean, I'm sure that's what it is, but
Yeah.
Just some adjusting.
yeah, it'd be good if we can get a follow-up on that.
Yep, I'll get it.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Delinquent accounts, 30 days, there were 31 accounts for $7,850. 60 days were 7 accounts for $3,300. 90 days were 7 accounts for almost $12,000. Dark.
Somebody asked me before, is there any way you can put what would have went from one month to the next, like you got 31 up there? For the previous
Yes, we have it.
Somebody asked one time, they could actually see if they were going up or down, they can't know.
This is damn, this is only $23,000. So it's a decrease of 2,000 from May. See that? Right there. Go ahead, Charlie.
and just as a side note on the delinquencies, it actually should be about $7,000 or $8,000 less than that $23,000 number. You're trying to foreclose on somebody and they're not having courthouse sales right now. So there's another 7,000 or 8,000 that's kicking around out there. So if you look at it overall, our delinquency numbers, I'll call them remarkable.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like, knock on wood, they're fairly remarkable at this point. So,
Yeah, that's really good when you're taking in almost 280,000 a month. That's next. Indian Creek Volunteer Fire Department opt-in, we have 158 total members in there now. Checking account at First State Bank, which is where we move money in and out of. This is where the cash comes that Charlie's talking about, is $358,570. Reserve funds, which is and contains our contingency and security deposits, is $2,391,000, or $2,391,000, and on total all accounts is $2,751,000. I think it's the last slide. Questions?
Yes. So what is the status of the PPP loan? How does that factor into anything that you?
No. We had used all the funds. Rules have, since we borrowed the money, it's about $8,000, the rules have relaxed somewhat for companies that did borrow as to what they may use those funds for and over what period of time. And they have relaxed those rules a little bit, but we have used all of those funds, and we will be applying for the.
and as a side note, I don't know if you saw that they actually came out with a change, and any company that took over $150,000, all of that information is published. So our information is not published because we were below that, but we are grouped into with other entities under 150,000. If you see a number for Cook County or whatever, we may be grouped into that. So,
Just one other comment too, looking at the green fees.
Yeah.
It looks like we exceeded the revenue budget for those for the year. And yet we were closed to guess for how many months on that. So I don't know what that says, but we aren't getting a lot of guess because we made up for it in that short time when we opened it up.
no, in the year-to-date, we're way behind.
Yeah, year-to-date was not that.
Yeah, you're almost
Green fees year-to-date.
$12,000 behind.
Is that a new sheet?
12,400 behind.
Yeah, the revised sheet.
Revised sheet?
Yeah, revised sheet.
It's summarized on page 12, which didn't change. It's not in there. It's in your original package. Page 12. See at the top, greens fees are about midway down on the revenue side. 12,445 under budget year to date.
Gotcha. Thank you.
See it? Okay.
Jim Adams?
I just had a comment and help correct me, Clark or Charlie, if I'm wrong, but Clark went through the June deficits and expenses where we were over budget. It's probably important to know, maybe we did earlier, that we actually net revenue, after the budget was 90,000 for the year end, so for the whole year, we look pretty good.
Well, from that, you gotta take out lot sales to get you to that 54,000.
Okay.
That's the reason it's 54. Gotta take out lot sales.
54,
The
so,
lot sales all go to CDR.
right, but we're ahead, so that's good.
Yeah, you're 54,000. Yep.
And to Jim's comment, remember, 3 months ago, I started saying, boy, this is looking bad. Because it was looking doom and gloom there for a while. But part of that was greens fees came back, building permits came back, lodge came back to a certain extent. So, it did turn around. As a side note, month to date right now, the lodge on their total sales, they're 1% above their budget, which isn't a huge amount, okay? But they're tracking pretty close to budget, okay? Pretty darn close. So.
Good. Okay. Anything else on the treasurer's report? Questions, Clark? And that looks good. Thanks, Clark. Okay, COVID-19 committee update. Kathy?
Yes, sir. For those of you that have been struggling, and I think Sam and I have had some conversations, if you use John Hopkins' website, if you use the Texas Health and Human Services, they're behind 99% of the time. I talked to Ray Fletcher. He gave me another place to go look, and it's on Facebook. So all of you who have a Facebook account, I can forward you the link. And it is very similar to what Plano, Denton, all the counties around us are doing. And right now in Collin County, we have 57 total active cases for a total of 155 that have occurred in all of Cook
You
County.
said Collin, but Cook, you were saying Cook County.
Cook County.
Okay, good.
Fatalities are 2, and neither of those were in Lake Iowa. They break it down by all of the incorporated cities, Gainesville, Callisburg. Lake Iowa is unincorporated, so it gets lumped in with all those other unincorporated areas, and all of us together have a total of 13. Right now, Ray believes we have 2 to 3 active cases in Iowa, and he'll firm that up at the end of the week. It looks like the age groups that are getting hit the hardest are between the age of 20 and 59 in Cook County. You have very few in the 60 to 80 and very few below 19 years old. They listed 28 males, 29 females. So it gives you a little bit of statistics and data. But once again, it's a challenge because Cook County does not have its own health department, and EMS resources are having to do all this map tracing. As far as the bigger cities, I only made note of the active cases currently in Dallas County, 17,000. Tarrant County is over 10,000. Collin is 743. Denton is 2,036. So it's the numbers are still higher than we would like to see.
What was the actual active in Cook County?
3. Oh, all Cook County active is 57,
That includes the state school.
and that includes the state school.
And actual cases, how many?
Total cases, 155 that tested positive. Any other questions?
I guess that, opens the question, is there anything we need to be doing different than we are
Well,
currently?
I think we've got the reminder coming in the door here about wearing masks. I didn't ask about chapel, if people that come to chapel are all wearing masks. If they're not, they shouldn't be coming in the building. And if they're coming in to dine, they're gonna take their mask off. So, I did mention to Charlie, we need to check the men's room. I had heard that we needed to space in the men's room. So he's gonna put that on his list to fix that. But I don't think, if you had somebody who wants to come through the lodge and not wear a mask, what's an employee gonna say? And I don't think we want to put them in those kind of positions. Although Walmart, all the big retailers are pretty much, you know, they're gonna support it. So we'll see what happens. But anybody have any other thoughts about any of the activities, groups? I hear there's some activities starting up, talking about things to do in the pavilion, come September, October. So we'll just have to see what the governor is gonna maintain at that point in time. And although you're outdoors, you still have to space, you still have to wear a mask in the pavilion. Anything?
Jim?
At the last meeting, we were talking about calculating, it was talking about calculating numbers for the rooms based on the type of usage and was there anything done on that? And I know that it was noted in the minutes, so I'm just kind of curious about whether we were doing that.
Well, when the governor came out with wearing a mask, that pretty much slowed that activity down immensely because line dancing was ready to gear up right after the 4th. And that's the biggest of the groups I knew of that wanted to come in the assembly room and space 40 people, 6 feet apart. Maybe we could have done it, I don't know.
But because of the mask.
Because, yeah, they
breathing
can't
issues with
dance,
that,
it's a really physical workout for everybody.
And so under the current guidelines from the governor, that would be prohibited
Correct.
to do it without.
Well, no, it's not prohibited, but the girls said they can't do it with these masks on.
Right, but the governor's mandate says they would have to wear a mask.
Yes.
Right, that's. Okay. Jim Adams?
I still believe we need to get together and define what the rooms can be used for and how they will be used. And that includes the pavilion because it's going to become a very big subject. And I don't think we've addressed that topic, and I don't think the governor's message on itself covers the specific uses. I agree that the dance guy decided that they didn't need to use it because they didn't want to wear a mask, but there's other uses of these rooms that come up. In the chapel is one, and there's other activities that have been happening and continue to happen in various ways, and we need to define if it's some of the proper guidelines, whatever we want it to be, and whatever meets the governor's requirements.
With some type of seating chart, is that what you're thinking?
I don't know, it's a seating chart because not all activities are seating. So it's like how many people can be in each room for specific activities or groups of activities, kinds of activities. I mean, how many people are we going to allow in the pavilion when we open it up next month? But
50% capacity, whatever the capacity is.
So that's fine, let's define it so people know.
Charlie?
Yeah, and Jim has brought that up a couple times. The dining room, the 19th hole, and the patio are set up to be within the guidelines. So 50%, okay, you're supposed to be 6 feet away. The 6 feet away is the bigger issue, okay, because it really depends on your activity. If you're line dancing, it's going to be hard because it's dynamic, okay, so that's the dilemma with that. I think at the pavilion, if you have one family that's under a roof together and there are 200 people, they can all be out there together, okay? Now, I don't think there's any 200 people families, okay, but conceivably, the Southwest room, if you have a family that's together, they can be 40 of them in there, okay? So everyone's a little bit different. I will tell you that a lot of our members don't like any restrictions placed on them. They don't, okay? To me, that's the bigger concern, and we haven't been policing it. I don't think we need to continue to police it. Or I shouldn't say I don't think, but I think it's problematic. But I will tell you that I see people in the 19th hole and dining room that are not in the same household, but that's their choice. So we can't do that. But yeah, Jim's brought it up. We can go back and look at it. I think there was a dance in here with 10 or 20 people. That's cool. I mean, that's well under the 50% level. And as long as they do what they want to do, that's their choice, okay? So, but, you know, he has brought that up. We can get back together. I don't know that you can give an exact mathematical number. Because I don't think you could play, I don't know, don't know that you could play volleyball. Well, you can't play volleyball right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, you know, so I think that's the dilemma is the 6 feet mask the whole bit.
What about the chapel? We have a specific set of guidelines for
Working just
chapel?
fine, and if anybody attended the candidate forum, we had 2 candidates forum 2 weeks ago. The chairs were set up in a similar fashion to this, 6 feet apart. One of them had 20 people, the other had 10 people. So what I'm also seeing right now is there's a group of people that I think is a smaller group that is getting together and socializing a whole bit. There's a whole nother group that's staying away. So, and I think that's the bigger group out there, and rightfully so, they should stay away. So, no, chapel was set up, but I haven't heard, last I heard, it was probably 30 people that showed up, and so maybe 40, so I think they're kind of policing themselves. Okay.
Give me another suggestion on how to do this.
I think Charlie was saying this, but I just suggest that we follow through with what we said we would do last month, get together and try to put some definition around it. So when people come to reserve rooms, we can tell them that's how compliance or within compliance.
Can you lead those efforts? Can you do
Yeah,
that?
well, and he's asked for it, yeah.
Okay, sure. Okay. And you would work with staff to do that, or is that what you're
Well,
thinking?
the plan said Charlie, Kathy, and I thought maybe Sam was going to be part of it. I don't know, it's not, but I thought for sure Charlie, Kathy, and I were going to get together and do it.
Okay.
And I asked,
Okay.
and now,
Kathy, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Sam, did you want to be in that or not?
I'm
You recall that?
words.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Okay. So for,
We'll coordinate, Rick. We'll get a date on the calendar, and if any of you want to join us, just, I'll send the invite out.
okay.
And if any of you would be interested in attending, because we're, you know, tiptoeing in waters we've never had to do before, so it's going to be a challenge. And we'll try to come up with a cohesive list of the things we know that do normally occur in these buildings. And then if new things are popping up, because I think people are trying to get creative to get that space between them so they can get together best they can.
Okay, all right.
Okay?
How's it,
Go ahead.
how's it working on the golf course?
Well, that was my next question. Randy or Charlie, what do we do if a group of 5 wants to take 5 cars? What's happening?
Well, it's happened one time, and that I know of, and it's around, I think the guy from Michigan, go with this 5th one, but, the 2 people in his group all buddied up to make 4 because they rode together before, and he left because it's not about doubling up, it's about the principle, so he left to play anyway. So he called me and we talked and I said, we're not restricting anybody from playing, we're just restricting the number of golf carts on the golf course. That's the only restriction we have. And I got an hour's worth of talking and we left admirably, and I saw him playing the tournament this weekend, so I said everything's okay.
Charlie, is that the same one as where the Brown gave him permission to go on 5 and the marshals didn't know that?
Yeah,
So,
so
he called me to.
I guess.
Oh, maybe that's Sam. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, I was confused. Okay.
So, yeah.
So, I think a reasonable approach is if they really, really want to do 5 and are concerned about it, and they go and ask Brown, and he says, okay. I think I'm okay with that, but somehow we need to tell the marshals.
well, the 2 guys stumbled up, should have been a problem, he was making a point because of his constitutional rights, I heard that. So I say, I'm with you, buddy, because my constitutional rights are the one thing, that we're not disrupting that, in my opinion. So,
I
so, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I've heard Randy's story, and it was Brown said, it said, you know, it came out, and Brown said it's okay. So that's now circulated around. So we have, I think we should be very clear, and we either give Brown permission to go any way he wants to go, or we need to be more emphatic and say, follow the rule. Because people start making these things out of context.
Well, we wouldn't give Brown permission to go any way he wants to go. But I would say if he has a legitimate request by college people, that we give him the authority to do that.
Yeah, this particular place wasn't legitimate, because there were both different groups that were with him and said, hey, I might know what I don't look yesterday.
Yeah.
Making a point was the purpose of the deal. I wasn't doubling up.
Okay. Got it. Leave it like that for now? Okay, that's good. Okay, any other questions for Kathy or any other comments on the COVID? Right, thank you. Thanks. Okay, so the next action, lot rezoning election. So this goes back to the log house at the front gate. And so Charlie and I had a conference call with Les to try to move this forward. And unfortunately, Les has continued to have some health problems. And so what we talked about, it didn't happen simply because of that. So Charlie's taking a crack at it. And I'll let him go over it here.
All right, so we had back and forth with the real estate agent and the owner of the property. And so really the statement up top was input from them. I edited it a little bit, but this will need to go on a ballot. Okay, so you think back to what went back with the e-voting back in January. So this is similar, there'll be a ballot there. So I put a little definition behind it. Bernice Wilkerson was a long-time resident, realtor of Lake Highway, lived in a log cabin at 105 Highway Drive West, right-hand side as you approach the courthouse. With the passing of Mrs. Wilkinson, her daughter has listed the properties for sale, and she attracted several interested parties who would like to operate a business there and converting the uses to commercial from residential. They're thinking the business would be in the light service retail business, similar in nature to existing businesses outside our gate. They ran an ad in the communique last month. You all probably saw it. Red, white, blue, patriotic, told them to come up with it. So down below is the POA statement, and this is just my first draft at it. I crafted it. The land use that's specifically prohibited, those were pulled out of the 52-acre RFP. It had like 20 different ones, and it got really long. Okay, so I put the buyers shall agree to a deed restriction which shall limit the use of the property to light commercial use with no additional building structures added to the property, which currently totals around 3,264 square feet, including the main house, porches, and attached garage. All business operating there would have to be licensed in the state of Texas. No products may be displayed outdoors, and signage would have to comply with the guidelines in our architectural control handbook. And then I put the following land uses to be strictly prohibited. This is kind of the worst ones out there, and this was the ones that possibly could fall into that use. I don't think, there was, in the 52 acres, they had no mineral exploration. I don't think we can worry about minerals being, mined there necessarily, or I don't think we could worry about it being a recycling yard. So see, that's going to be costly.
Or a power plant. I noticed you took power plant out.
Yeah, I took power plant out because I don't think it's going to become a power plant. So now, anybody wants input, any use contrary to law, any noxious odor, sexually oriented businesses, tattoo parlors, bars, nightclubs that serve 60% of revenue from alcohol, gun club, gun range, shooting range, and weaponry range, manufacturing process that discharges dust, gas, fumes, chemicals, or waste, outdoor storage, warehousing. I didn't want it to turn into a U-Haul, okay, with a bunch of trucks out there, and also didn't want it to have a yard sale type appearance. So that's why up there it said they can't display, no products can be displayed outdoors. So we didn't want to see, a motorcycle dealership and all motorcycles stored out front. So that's kind of the thought process behind it. Now this will have to go, once it's approved, it'll have to go on the ballot. It'll go to the e-voting and then it'll go to the ballot, and they've got to get 720 people to approve it. So
I think we're not addressing, I'm sorry, Richard.
Go ahead.
I think we're not addressing the traffic concerns. I mean, you can bring in the nicest esthetician and nail stylist and they can fill that parking lot up and then you've got a mess getting in and out of the gate. So I just, it's great to define what can't be there, but there's a lot of things that if they had as much parking as the group over on 902, we're in trouble and we can't get in and out. Now, we can hope that the vote goes the way we think it's gonna go, and the members are gonna say no, but, I mean, I hate to bet on that.
Well, I think one of the things we're gonna talk about, later in the meeting is trying to address the amount of people in the left-hand lane. And I think if we do go with additional toll tags in the right-hand lane, that will get traffic through significantly faster. And I understand your concern. I don't know, what the solution is to that. So, and I don't know what the ideal business is for it.
Jim,
I'll express the same concern that Kathy's expressed, and also say that we've had two committees report to us that same concern, and then ask that we see some sort of plan before we allow it to move forward. That's what the committee said. I don't know if we can do that, or how you go about that, but that was what the committee's approach. And I personally was thinking, when I saw this, that we would also see what the ballot measure will actually say. And so I'm fine with what this says here. I would like to see a plan of how we deal with traffic, or what, given the type of business that's there. But before I approve, I'd rather wait and see what the ballot measure actually reads, and what people are going to vote on.
Steve?
There's restrictions on how much parking is required, and I don't think there's gonna be enough area for the parking that's gonna be the square footage. And it opens a lot of restaurants.
The restrictions, say that again?
There are restrictions on the building codes that say in a business, you have to have so many parking places for the amount of square footage.
Really? Is that a state law type thing?
Yeah.
I'm not certain that the company does that. I think that's a municipalities where that comes into play. I don't think the county regulates that. We might need to find out.
I think we need to figure that out, because I don't think there's enough parking. I agree with what you're saying. I don't think there's any way we could have any business there and have enough parking places that we're not going to be in trouble at some point.
If you are opening a restaurant or a business in Plano or any other city, there are going to be planning guidelines that describe how many parking places you need
Right.
for a particular type of business in square footage.
I've had to buy
I
a
don't
land.
think the county does that.
I had to go to
We
somebody-
might do it.
I had to go to the next door neighbor and buy land so I could add parking.
We might have to set that standard here.
Okay, so perhaps we could specify a maximum number of parking spots there. And we could specify 4, 6. And but what we have to find out is there a county one that would conflict with, like Steve's described? That says, okay, a 3,000 square foot business has to have at least 10 parking spots, whatever it is.
Right.
So we would need to figure that out. But on the other hand, if there's not, how would you all feel about a specific maximum number of parking spots being included in this somehow?
Wouldn't it be minimum?
Maximum,
No more than.
no more than.
Wouldn't you want to also say you have to have so much?
To keep them from just hovering outside.
Right.
Well, that's true too.
I think we go back to what Jim was saying, and that's be a plot of some sort, so we can see how many places we can actually fit in there. I mean, I always did that before I opened a restaurant, I always did that. The plot, figured out how I would set it up, and take it to an architect, and have them tell me if that worked. But
So we would want such a drawing from the owner of the realtor.
right.
But it probably has a big bearing on whether it's gonna be a Mary Kay or a Jared's. They only gotta sell one diamond, they only need one parking spot, but we're gonna have to sell 47 bottles of makeup every day. I'm like, Jim, it's gonna take a little bit to understand what's going on in front of us. I'm sitting here in the dark.
It doesn't have to be.
If
You
you,
know,
if you want to
say
keep
this
it
is
quiet,
planned.
come to executive session, and it would be quiet.
Yeah.
So we can't talk out executive session.
Kathy?
Say we put the plan together and we work it out with this realtor and, Gala. Then they sell it to a company. And then that company decides to sell it. We've lost all our rights.
Don't the deeds carry, deed restrictions
Don't
carry,
take care of that.
carry forward?
With deed restriction, who would record this? Who would run with the land?
Well, then there's gotta be a lot more information in here. I think we're missing a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the parking.
Okay, anything else you can think of?
I still come back, whether it's 5 cars or 10 cars, we're gonna have problems getting in and out.
Mhm.
Unless we were gonna reconstruct that as part of the guardhouse, and the, gates themselves coming in.
The idea is we're not spending the money there.
Well, that's what.
We're not gonna spend money so they can have business. Doesn't make sense.
Well, we were gonna spend some money on redoing the gates. So
Right.
the gates have gotta be updated in some of the,
Yeah.
solution.
Yeah, we have a similar problem with some of the
Yeah.
houses out there,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So they have
and,
to kind of
we can get the
remove it.
throughput, and that's great,
Mhm.
but once again, these people have to get out of that parking lot
Mhm.
and back in to go around the guardhouse to get out. I mean, there's no,
That's
that's
why
not
we need
gonna
a plan.
change.
Right, well, something you said there, I mean, you know, we have a nice little path there for golf carts to come back across there. So I guess that could be something that is designed into the new guardhouse thing, if it became a business.
So just to clarify, what we are doing is we're saying all of these restrictions, the owner would have to agree to put those into their contract. Because we can't put a deed restriction on their property, they have to be the ones that, they're the owners of the property. So they would have to agree to do that.
Yes.
Now, the other question I have, and I don't know how it works here, again, in a municipal scenario, you have a zoning ordinance which lists that, so it's law. All we have is a statement about commercial zoning. That's very ambiguous about that. I don't know, do we legally have the right to impose zoning restrictions within that?
They're asking for a zoning change.
Correct, but the zoning itself is just 2, 3 lines in the bylaws. What I'm saying is,
So the 10 for 10 is new restricted use.
That's the point. I'm going back. to
right,
them.
but what I'm saying is,
This
could
is what
we
wanted.
put into our rules restrictions and say, this is what our zoning is for that, as opposed to asking them to put it have it in the deed.
Charlie.
The definition.
It's
Yeah.
the definition of zoning, not what you.
It depends on if it's in the bylaws or the rules.
Yeah, Charlie.
This all relates back to the restricted covenants. Okay, that's where the covenants run with the land. So the first covenant listed is 101, use. Said lots shall be used exclusively for single-family residential purposes, except those lots that may be designated subject to rezoning in parentheses, if any, in zone as business, recreational, commercial areas on the plats approved by the Lake Iowa Property Owners Association, here in that referred to as LKPOA, the successor and assign of Lake Iowa Inc. That probably goes back 50 years, okay, when you think about it. The next one is 1.02, rezoning. Rezoning of lots at Lake Iowa may be accomplished when requested by the owner and approved by an affirmative vote of the owners of a majority of the privately owned lots in Lake Iowa subdivision. So virtually everything is residential, except for the POA lots that are recreation, okay? We do have one lot already that's commercial, and that's lot number 1, and that's Iowa Station, the liquor store, you know, that area up there. There's the real estate office that's right on the right-hand side as you go out, okay? So that is currently some, you know, commercial. I think in this case, we don't really have zoning, as you say, other than this. It is listed, I call the Cook County Appraisal District. This lot we're discussing here is listed as residential, as are the 2 POA lots on either side. Okay, the realtor did say, do you think the POA would ever be interested in selling those 2 lots on either side? And I took the liberty of answering for the group, probably not. Okay, so if y'all differ with that, let me know, because I think that's part of the entry up there. So this is as much, I mean, in terms of the seller statement, I actually got this from bits and pieces and put this together. There wasn't a lot of information out there. It's concepts and ideas. They're not developers. And this statement I put together to try to protect us. The other thing we could put is we could put parking minimums and maximums, which I think would help you. Whenever I observe Holly out front or the other nurse practitioner, I don't see 8 cars out there at one time. Okay, I usually see 2 or 3 cars at one time. Okay, when I go to Manuelito's, I don't see 8 cars at one time. I see a couple cars. Now I don't go at nights and weekends and things like that. So, but I do think that somehow, some way, they got requested for the rezoning. So I think we do have to come up with a way to allow them to do it. And then how the members vote, the members will vote. I do think it's going to be a pretty challenging order to get 720 people to vote for it.
So do we have
Steve had a question, I think.
okay, Steve?
The only way I see it working is to have an exit out on the 902, a way in and a way out, which would mean that you have to sell some of our land.
Let's go through all these. Is Ali like Lake Kiowa lot?
No.
No.
That land that we
Your dolls.
Yeah, you know, the best thing was, you know, somebody could buy all of that and tear it down and consolidate it all. But, you're right, that makes it very difficult. So that's why I think we should put in there some requirement on parking implies that they can't have a 902 cafe there or something like that. It's
A
gotta be.
motorhome, an RV, I mean, we're gonna have to really get restricted, I think. That would be a big mess.
Yeah, so, did you have a question?
I guess, one of my concerns, even though we've gotten all this written down here, I would have a little concern that everybody would say, man, with all the stuff you have written down here, they can't do, why should I vote again? Vote in commercial? I don't know how you can go about putting it in there otherwise, other than like you say with the parking. But, I'm just concerned a little bit that everyone will say, well, you've got it pretty much covered, making sure that nothing's gonna come in here that we would be opposed to, what's wrong with this commercial?
So you would say by having all of these, people are more likely to vote for it?
I would think so.
Yeah. One of the reasons I propose that we move forward with it is do we want to have something that keeps it nice looking, or do we want it to just continue to run down and become nice? So that's why I think letting them move forward with the vote, you know, makes sense.
nice for not meeting our architectural control requirements, we can do something about that too. But, and that's what, maybe to Sam's point, that's why I think it's very important to understand what's going to be said on the ballot measure. And I think we need to be able to review that.
Okay. So I think we go back to them with some minimum and some maximum parking. And the same list here, unless anybody has any additions to the list or subtractions from the list. So this is what we're thinking, can you give us a plan? at this point. And then we come up, if there's an agreement from the owner and the realtors with these type of provisions, then we can move forward with what the ballot.
Yep. Would it, maybe back to Sam's point, do you think it would be advisable before the vote if there's a town hall meeting to discuss the pluses and minuses of it and have different parties speak to that? So that-
Yeah, I think we mentioned it.
Educated both perspectives.
Yeah. Well, we mentioned it to them, that's about the only way it would probably pass if they did a really good job. To come home, maybe you don't want to make that a requirement, is that what you're saying?
I think if we don't, we'll regret it. I think we ought to be upfront with them, give them as much information as possible, and, go from there. And we always do town halls before every time we go.
So where does that land end on that?
It's 2 lots. So I'm thinking it's kind of here and then over here.
There's no way.
Well, they'd have to take out all those trees and the
Well,
circle driveway with some type of parking.
They'd have some, but so it wouldn't be enough.
Depends on what business, yes, if it's a realtor,
Well, if it's a realtor, that's one thing, but they're talking having people selling it, not really. Realtor wants to lease it to other people. They want to have multiple things in there.
yeah, but I think if we come back with them with our acceptable maximum number of parking spots, if it doesn't work for them, they can still say no. The realtor and the owner can say, no, I don't think that'll work after all. Right. So I would propose that that we have a maximum number of parking spots and a minimum number of parking spots that they would have to comply with. And propose that to them here, along with the charge.
Because that's gonna be expensive for them. Whoever does it.
Well, we're not asking if it's gonna make economic sense for us.
Well, I know, but that's, if I'm buying that, I'm thinking that too, you know. And then how do they get out?
They can't back out on Kyle Drive.
No. So they'd have to go in front of which is, we don't have that much it's not good to have traffic going through there.
Right. If you live there, you do the same thing, right? If you own that house, how do you get out? Same way.
Well,
So there might be,
It's
you know,
one vehicle.
might be 10 more people. Right. You got another idea on count?
Well, if you live there, you can, they have a gate pass, they can go through the gate and circle all the way around. I guess they can go through that little circle before they drive house too.
That's the one I'm talking about.
But is that what that is intended for commercial
No.
traffic?
No,
That's all, and is it capable of?
it's a parking lot.
Yeah, so,
Well, there's people that turn around in it all the time.
Isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, remember, guys, ladies and guys,
Well, no, it's-
there's two other residences right over here, right? So to get to their house, they have to come in and turn around to get to their house over there.
And I'm guessing not a single one of them ever drives through the gate.
Probably until when they go to lodge and play golf, they do.
But just to exit,
Just to spin around.
yeah, to get into their own
Yeah.
house.
So there's cars that go through right there all the time. So, I think, let me say, I'm not an expert on writing ballots. This was my attempt at what would be the ballot, because I think it's going to be simple language. And it would be, I guess you would say for or against down at the bottom. That would be the other addition on there. I do think that if you put a minimum, parking spaces, that will limit it, and that will decide, let them decide. Something that nobody mentioned so far, and I'm not saying that this would happen or could happen, but if it was a financial advisor, okay, they're not gonna have 6 clients at one time. They're gonna have, hours appointments or things like that. So I don't know that it makes a ton of sense for a number, it's definitely not a high traffic business. It's not a Sonic site or a Dollar General or anything like that. So. Yeah, you got a couple comments?
Jim?
I agree with what Charlie's saying, that, I mean, it depends on what type of business, and that goes back to what the committee's asked for. I don't know if we can ask for that, but what is the intended use of the property? Is it for a financial advisor, is it for nails, or is it for a restaurant? We don't, I mean, the problem is, give us a plan and say what kinds of business you expect to put in there, and then we can define parking and do all of this things. But I don't know, so that was part of what each communicate suggested we did.
Do we restrict restaurants? You say no restaurants, I think
That's in and out. That would be, especially in this world, it's takeout primarily now. So that would be a drive-through.
You can have whatever you want. I mean, you say no restaurants, we could do no restaurants, bars, or nightclubs.
right,
You know.
I think that'd be smart.
Jim Fox?
I'll do a little research on zoning ordinance, and there's various categories called neighborhood services and retail, and how they define those, and some of the, it might just give us an idea of what kind of restrictions usually are included in zoning, if that might help, so.
Okay. So if I made a proposal here, maximum number of parking spots is 6, minimum number of parking spots is 4, and we added that to this and went back to them and said, here's what we're thinking, give us a plan. Is that acceptable? It's not acceptable, but
You just made up a number. I mean,
I did, but I'm just looking at the space there.
what's your expertise to define that to that particular building?
Actually, I do have a degree.
Civil engineering?
I think that's great. Well, please put together a study plan to show.
But I'm thinking we need to go back to them and say, here's the thing I'm thinking. Is this still gonna work for y'all? Can y'all give us a more definite plan?
Right, I think we go back and say we need a more defined plan so that we can look at it and be smart about it.
Right.
Because right now, we're not, we're just saying, we're throwing a dart at it, saying, let's go. You know, because we want to sell a lot, and make money, but
And we're not making any money.
We're not making money.
I don't sell
We just don't want it to be,
I don't want
yeah,
it to be.
we'd like for it to be sold somehow and not deteriorating. Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that what they always come up with is several interested parties. I'd like to see who the interested parties are, that I don't know why they can't give that information to us. To work, it makes it a little bit easier.
Then you kind of know what kind of business they might be looking to build. Right.
It's like it's secretive that we can't be told what who they're negotiating or talking to. Okay.
But Mr. Harvey, what he read us down there and give us the right to even be having this conversation. What he just read me down there, when I heard him through there, we're all interested. We're interested, we're concerned about it, but what he read, they got the right to put this on the vote to rezone, no matter what we say.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
Well, what I heard him read to me, one sentence.
I tend more to agree with Randy's approach to it, but y'all are the ones that have to decide on the language of the ballot. And I do think that, I mean, what was presented in the communique in July, if you saw this was the extent of their information, which was, we want you to vote for the zoning of lots 1879 and 1880. Would you like to see services such as these at Lake Powell? Skincare and facial salon and fitness center, design studios such as graphics, interior architecture, etc. Call service center, make one call for electricians, plumbers, heat and air, landscape and irrigation, pest control. You know, that one would have very low parking requirements, so to speak. These would be useful or of interest to you, vote yes. Currently, these lots have a log house. These two lots have a log house in them before you enter the main gate. The lots either side are on the POA and zone commercial. I clarified that with Carol last week that we're not zone commercial. Best and highest in use of these lots would be commercial. So that's basically the extent of the information. Quite frankly, I believe the owner of the property wants to get the ability for it to be, commercial, and just sell it and then let that person take the ball and run with it. I've heard from a couple different people, design studio, this, that, and the other, but that's all the details that I've got. So it's not like we're holding back. I'm not holding back from you. That's all I got. So
I'm just figuring out a way how to move the ball forward and say, tell them, these are the type of things we're thinking. Give us some more detail. So that's all I'm looking for. How do we move the ball forward?
Why don't you do just that? Say, this is what we're starting with, and these are the concerns of the board, it's registered in the minutes. Give us a proposal that addresses the concerns we have, and then we'll put a ballot measure together that reads like that.
Okay, that works for me. It works for me.
The two committees that gave input back to the board, safety and security, and what was the other committee?
Well, I think of three actually.
Yeah. Three.
So ACC,
And
land
don't we
use.
need to be pulling some language out of those three committees' feedback?
Yeah, a lot of that is incorporated in these things.
Oh, I didn't see anything about safety, I don't see anything about traffic control, I don't see anything that safety and security came back with. Why we don't want, didn't feel like we could make that work. So it doesn't reflect what our committee did.
So the question is, how would you put that on the ballot? I think what you would put in the ballot is the ways that you're trying to address that would be the limiting the number of vehicles and things like that. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'd love to turn over the ballot writing to somebody else, because this is the best that I can come up with. So,
But I think the way we're trying to address this safety and security is number of parking.
And you could,
I can't think of any other way to do it. I can't think of any other way to do it.
you could also have them define egress and regress into the property.
Right, which way they're coming out. It needs to be one way. We don't want anybody backing out into the main flow of traffic. Okay. So what's the consensus here? What do we want to do?
Thought we were going to come back with a portion, if not all, of Charlie's attempt at a ballot, and present that back to Gala and the Realtor and see where it goes, because they're not going to get what they want based on all the things we've restricted them to, I think.
Yeah. But I think we do need to include some parking in it.
Yeah. I do
Whether we
too.
believe in
Yeah.
blank, we said there's got to be blank maximum, blank minimum, and let them do a design. And there's got to be one way in, one way out, no backing out, something like that. So, okay.
But if they don't have a contract, nobody's going to give them all that information and buy that lot.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's just-
I mean,
We're doing it backwards.
yeah, that's very true.
But if the goal is to get it moving, then we take Charlie's start and add to it and give Jim some time to research.
Okay, all right. Charlie, can you? Okay.
Well, I was just gonna, I can put it in the form of a motion, but I was gonna recommend that we have Charlie take this wording and the thoughts that we had here and take it back to them to negotiate what he thinks is workable, and then bring that back to us.
Yeah, with their plan. Even if they
It's
were.
their plan, get their.
Yeah, if they would even agree to
Right.
this, or just say, well, let's just drop it. They might, provide all this. So, is that okay, Charlie? Can you do that?
sure.
Okay. I don't know that we need a specific motion to authorize Charlie to do that. Okay. Moving on. Y'all want to take a break now?
Yeah.
Steve said yes. All right. Steve Battery at 7:25. All right, we're ready.
That's cool. Yeah, I think so too. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so let's do our committee updates now. I don't recall that anybody sent me a list of any updates.
There was. Do you remember what they were?
Yeah, Cheryl Mason joined and
Land use,
land use, and then someone was removed.
Don Wood dropped off.
Yeah, Don Wood, that's what it is.
Okay, so land use, were you,
Well, Jim Ward dropped off the long range planning. I didn't see it on the list here, so I guess you already got that. I don't know if that was done in a meeting or just done as far as this list.
Who was it?
Jim Ward, asked to.
But he's not on this list.
He's not on this
This
list.
list is accurate.
Yeah.
This list is accurate for long
Okay.
range planning.
Okay, cool. And for land use, as far as you know?
As far as I know, Don dropped off.
Yeah.
and Cheryl Mason was shown on?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other changes to your committees, anybody's, their committees? Okay, so we had a couple that have already been reflected in this list. One on architectural control and one on land use. We have a motion to approve those changes.
Move.
Art moved, do we have a second? Joe? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Make those changes. Committees?
No. I'm sorry, were you gonna talk about the Park and Rec charter? I put that out of order. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. So do Jim, did you submit a new charter for Parks and Rec?
Well, Clark had given me a charter that had been done. And it did not have a date when the board approved it, so I was uncertain whether we had actually approved it or not. We don't know whether we knew. So just to reconfirm that, we did delete one word in it, so it's a little bit different, but it's the same. It should be in the packet here anyway. That what was originally done when the lake and the park committee split.
Okay,
So this is just Parks and Recreation.
okay.
So I wanted to put an official date when the board had reviewed and approved that.
Right. Okay, so is your motion to?
I'll motion that we approve what's in the packet.
Okay, all right.
As written.
Jim Adams?
Is your one word, the word outdoor that you dropped?
In one line, it's still outdoor appears in most places. The committee, when we talked about that, we were talking about the fitness center or recreation center in the future, which would be an indoor facility. And so we just wanted to ensure that the Parks and Recreation Committee had some input. And so by dropping the word outdoor from that one line, it kind of opened it up a little bit more, where at least we would provide some input.
Okay.
My-
That sounds good.
My point really is, I'm fine with that, but it's the facilities committee, I mean, it's a facility that becomes indoor. And there may be some shared things there, or we could need to define that better, or is there gonna be a debate between two committees?
I hope not. I hope they work together.
Well, I asked about, we talked about the base last time.
The charter of the facilities committee is to look at new facilities and refurbishment. So they deal with first quite a bit. It's not the uses. In other words, that's, with the use of the lodge, that's lodge and tavern. So use of the pavilion, that's probably lodge and tavern as well, I think, right? Isn't that where that falls? The use of these facilities right here is in that committee, not the facility committee.
And that's what I would expect, is that we just work together on that. Is the facilities committee oversees the actual construction of any facility, that's fine. I think the Parks and Recreation committee necessarily has to be involved, other than to say, here are some his input into design or whatever it might be.
I'm the facilities chairman, parks chairman, both agree on that.
And we've had that same discussion with the upcoming guard charter. I don't think the facilities committee wants nor knows all the technical requirements that goes into that. Let them plan it, and they ask us when they need help doing whatever it is. What's the deal?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we have a motion from Jim to approve the new charter. Do we have a second? Second from Steve. Okay. Now, any further discussion or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? The motion passes. All right, Charlie, is that it under the first line item there?
Yes.
Okay, Architectural Control Committee, Jim Adams discussed and take possible action on lot constitution request.
Okay.
Is that
Today,
in our packet there?
you ready?
Yeah.
It's in your packet. And today, the Architectural Control Committee met on lots 70, on a number of things, but lots 76 and 77, which is 104 in Newetta Place South, came up to constitute the lots. This is, on the south side of, or southwest side of the lake. There's, and on that first little cove that's on the west side, well, maybe the second cove, there's a cove right by the boat ramp, and then there's another little cove just above that, north of that. And so it's a house that's kind of on the curve of that cove facing the main water. They asked me to constitute this lot. They came, I think they came in the past and asked to constitute it, but they had multiple boat docks, and they would have had to tear down boat docks, and then, so this issue went away. That lot is fenced in. They use it as one property. They rectified the boat dock issues that were there years ago. And so the ACC committee recommends that we allow them to constitute this lot.
Is this the one with the boat dock went in and then they've got a kitchen, an outdoor kitchen down next to the
It's
seawall?
got a fire pit
Yeah, right, right,
yes,
okay.
that one.
Okay.
Not really a second boat dock. Just there, it's
Yeah, took that out.
kind of a structure.
And put up a kitchen, a sitting area with an out, with a.
It does have a separate little building
Yeah.
that sits next to the water. But there is no boat dock there. So technically it's compliant now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the building couldn't be there if they were starting from scratch, right?
That's true. I can believe that.
Yeah, it's not out over the water, but it's right.
No, it's not over the
No, it's
water.
not over.
Right, so, but we're going on the assumption that that's.
Well, they can't have a detached building. I'm just not sure. Honestly, I can't quite remember.
Yeah, the detached building would have to be inside, X feet away from the lot, right, or from the lake.
Oh, fair.
Yeah,
Yeah, good point. So that,
so I guess we're saying that's grandfathered.
yes, yes.
So that's a recommendation from the ACC, the motion from Jim. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Clark seconds it. Any other comments or questions, Jim, on this? All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? So, and they are aware of the fee, it's like 15,000 or whatever it is, right?
I think it's 16,000, yeah.
16,000. Because the last one we approved, the owner said he wasn't aware of that. So,
We clarified that with Rich this morning and to make sure that they understood the new lake fee was in there, all that.
okay, right.
But what actually is going to talk to the owner, I don't know, but we have to check with Rich or have to make sure he conveys that message.
Yeah. Okay, so that passes. Facilities Committee. Clark, can you give us a
Pavilion,
update on the pavilion?
getting close. The baths are up, all three of them.
The what?
Baths,
Baths.
big ass fans.
Oh.
Don't laugh. When you go in there, look up and see, tell me what you see. It's right on the advertisement, the advertisement is right on the fan. That is the name of the company. Those are up, they're doing the floors right now. Both restrooms, the floors were sealed today, so they are probably right at completion. The current needs for the whole pavilion are the PA system, the speakers for the PA system. Those are above, and they have open junction boxes where those go. The restrooms need fixtures.
That's what it's like.
Yeah, the restrooms need fixtures, and that's the reason the floors in the restrooms were completed today. So while he's doing the rest of the floors, we can go back to the restrooms and complete the fixtures in there. Fixtures being sinks, countertops, towel racks, all the facilities with the modesty panels in between and et cetera. All that's going on.
COVID not,
And then, what?
COVID not just back. It's supposed to be here in the 8th of July.
I'm sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. With this off, you can't hear.
Okay.
The fixtures were supposed to be here July. But it keeps being set back because they're not releasing like they were, and that's why it's not.
All right, well, you know more than I do about it.
Well, I talked to her.
I thought we were waiting on the floor, because some of the fixtures are open as well.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
It's
see.
not all.
Okay. The big needs are to complete the restrooms, and the PA system, the speakers, and any other items we're gonna put in there, and the guttering. Big issue on the guttering, but yeah, that's going to be put in as well. Other than that,
On
I
the
think,
floor ceiling, they're doing the bathrooms now. Do they just keep on going after that?
yeah, as a matter of fact, the first layer is done, all over.
Oh, okay.
All over is done, which is the first layer, and then I went over there today, and we did the striping today for the joint. It's not really a joint, it just looks like one. Because once they do that final service, you pull that tape up and it reveals the underside. That surface is only about as thick as what's less than a quart, thickness of a quart. So that'll be going on fairly quickly, because I think they pretty much did a bunch of the tape today. That's what's going on, and it's probably the first week of August.
Very good. Any other questions for Clark? All right, thank you, Clark. It's looking really good.
It's beautiful.
It is.
All the lights are in, especially the fun lights. I don't know if it's, I've got a picture of it, but late at night, you don't turn on the big lights. What he's done is all along up in the structure, all the way up in the ceiling, there's these little thumb lights, these little low voltage thumb lights that are surface mounted all the way up there. They're about that long, bunch of all that surface mounted, little bitty low voltage lights. And you turn everything off and turn those on, and it's just beautiful.
They'll scream up too.
And I don't know whether y'all seen out front, we put the rock out there with the pavilion on it and the LKPOA logo. That's going to get lit up as well. So with the night lighting, that will be lit up, and all the way around the outside of the pavilion will be lit up with night lighting. So,
Very cool. Okay, golf. Randy Romine is discussed and take possible action on additional spray for invasive grass.
Oh, all right. Here's probably about a month ago, we talked and did the evaluation on the golf course and everything. And we had a talk about the different grasses that were showing up and things. And, Clark noticed that, the nut sage is just, in certain areas are really, really thick. And if you've got any gardening stuff, it's just almost impossible to get rid of the old nut grass. It just pops up and we got to pull it out by the roots and stuff. Well, I went and, talked with Brian, about, hey, is there any way we can, you know, try to get rid of it, whatever, because I don't know, you know, and he said, well, let me check. So he started doing some research, and he found a chemical, you know, another word, I guess, that can control the nut grass. But you have to apply it like you do fertilizer. You know, you physically has to touch the nut grass, and he did an evaluation of that cost. And he wanted me to bring it to you, and if it's important enough for get the golf course clear of nut grass, then he's got a dollar amount that for an application. And how much, which was really, I don't know when I did the square footage myself, but it ended up being, I'll see if I can find the name of it. It got the quote and everything for a couple of different places. The best one was, Chemical Excel was $7,200. Yes, and then to apply it, $1,700 to get their equipment stuff there. So we're talking about $9,600 to completely free the golf course.
That's one application.
That's one application. And the guy suggests that you put in it's an annual thing, but you adjust it, don't just come out and shoot everything like we'd have to do right now to get rid of it. And work it in for the upcoming years as part of their cycle with their stuff, and he said he thinks he can control it.
You can control it with one single application.
Just for this year. And then he can control it through the years with applications of going down. So that's kind of where Brian was at. He would like to give it a try. Because I think I can get the golf course seat. Because I'm trying the best I can. I think I've got it in pretty good shape. He's in the sun, he's got it in really good shape. But that's the point that we see that's not good right now. There's not anything we can do about it. My backyard's got it too. I might have to go over and step on it and transplant it to my backyard on my shoes.
I was thinking when Charlie was telling me about it, saying my yard needs.
I know. So that's where we're at right now. If there think we need it, and we need to get Charlie to be okay, Charlie, and whatever, you know, the all discussion.
Okay, and Charlie, funding source?
We do it out of surplus on it. I mean, we had a bigger surplus than expected. One of the comments I'd like to make, and Clark kind of gave you a heads up on it, is golf, we were unfavorable to budget pretty substantially at the end of the year. Part of that, a big chunk of that, which he mentioned, is the water. We were favorable last year on the budget when it came to the water, okay? So it's really a timing issue, okay? You all know we have to add 107% back into the lake, and it's supposed to be added back in within 72 hours of it being extracted. How we comply with that is Ronnie Young gets held ahead of it, and we actually kind of build up a reserve with our water into the lake, okay? Last year it was wet, he fell behind. When the fiscal year ended, that he started having a pump, and it hit us in the fiscal year. So that's why if you add the two back together, the water's there. One of the things I basically charged Brian with is saying, hey, we've had some complaints in the past on the condition of the golf course. Rounds are way up, if anything. So I've let him have pretty much a free rein to say, okay, I need to spend this on chemicals, I need to spend this on salary. And I'm generally getting good feedback of the course, about the course, and we all know there's a ton of rounds being played out there, okay? Now, Clark did bring up the invasive grass issue. I think the conditions were perfect for the development of this invasive grass, okay, with wet and all that. So I think that really Brian's solution to this is go to a third-party provider, see what they can do. I think Clark brings up a very good point, though, is this isn't going to cure it forever, Okay, I think it's something that we probably have to look at this. And I do think as we go further into this budget year, we're gonna have to continue to look further at golf expenditures. I may have under budgeted on golf expenditures to be able to provide a course that people are satisfied with. But I think generally people are fairly satisfied with the exception of the nutsedge and some St. Augustine infiltration. So, and I got a call on my voicemail today from a guy who says, they're killing my St. Augustine next to the golf course. I'm going, yes. So,
I was pulling it.
so
Pulling it off the
I think
fifth
that-
e-box.
and that's it. And I think, once again, as Brian is coming up on his 7th year with us, I think that he's learned every year. We generally get, getting better results. I think their crew has taken some initiative on some of the stuff. I think if you look at flyer beds and some of the other things they've gone after, they've really done this. But I think this is something we can do to help them. Because Clark's other comment on it is if this gets too far out of hand, then the bill down the road could be much bigger. This is kind of like changing your oil, right? If you don't change your oil, add oil to your motor, you may buy a new motor. So,
Well, let me say, the reason I asked, this is a single application for that price.
Yeah.
For you folks that have it in your yard at home, Home Depot's called Image. It attaches to your hose and you set the little dial and you water that area where that is. It takes 3 applications of Image. And that's the reason I asked about the application. So I'm a little leery about a single application.
But I think that's what he was talking about in the years past, he'll spread it out and go through it. I think he's probably put it down in big enough concentration to get it out. But that's what I asked. Yeah,
I'd love to, I'm real interested in watching this go.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, the impact. Yeah. So we're talking about doing the fairways and surrounds.
But fairway is not as bad as the surrounds. The surrounds is where the nuts is.
Tee boxes,
Yeah, tee boxes.
most of the fairways, and a lot of the rock,
Around the green,
around the green swamp.
yeah.
Is it fairways and surrounds, or is it just surrounds?
The whole golf course is what it was on me.
Yeah,
So
the whole golf.
I'm assuming with this application, we're talking where nutgrass grows. Again, didn't get down and talk detail with him, but he was excited about it.
Hey, 10 grand sounds like a great.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, me too. The last time I was thinking 25 or 30,000 when I was going to do it with the Image. This is evidently getting a bulk price.
I would assume it's a limited application, then the clean sprayer problem.
The third party has to come in and do it. He doesn't have the machinery to do it.
Do Adam, good question.
Whatever we do, I'm probably for this, but I like to ask a financial question. Why, just the fact that we have a chemical that, I don't know whether, Brian put chemical A, B, C, D, whatever on the golf course at any point. Why does this have to come up to us to say we want to decide what chemical? Seems like he could be applying whatever he thinks he needs to do, as Charlie's saying he's given him liberty to do. And if he's going to run short on the budget, then we have to deal with that issue.
basically,
We're in the first month. How do we know we can't be short on budget because we're in the first month of 18.
yeah, so basically I'm asking for, Randy's asking for $10,000 above and beyond the budget to do this, knowing full well that we're gonna be behind by that much. So
Do we know?
It wasn't planned.
it wasn't planned, it was
When he did his budget, nutsedge was not
on the radar screen.
on the radar screen.
Yeah, we didn't notice, Carson, really, it showed up last month when it really started. Concentration level was out there.
This technical budget is, that's not, we'll lose all of that, so we're going to be able to do.
I mean, that's my point. We don't know. I'm just going how you do budgets. Okay, guys?
Brian's been here 5 years.
We've got a budget. We can spend it when we're out of money. We can allocate more money. I'm just talking about how budgets work. We can do it now. I'm all for it. Take care of the golf course and don't let it get out of control. I'm concerned that we have costs arise 2 weeks after we start a new budget, and we're already going, let's spend more.
Yes, understand.
And,
Becky?
Did anybody get references on this chemical that it really works as a golf course?
I'm assuming Brian did his homework. He's done it. The golf course looks phenomenal. So I'm trusting him.
Charlie, you know any more on that?
I don't, but he typically, as Randy said, he talked to a couple purveyors and said, hey, I've got this problem. They go, we got the solution. But I haven't checked references on that.
It'd be nice to know if it's $10,000, it would actually work somewhere. That's a pretty easy conversation to have with the sales guy, I would think.
So, Charlie, could you explain out of this approximate 10,000 or less, what fund balance or that we have left over, that balance, is that from one we had a year ago that's been audited, or is it this one that was 54,000 that we talked about earlier tonight?
We have over 100 from a year ago. And based on right now, we're forecasting to have 54,000. That'll have to go through the audit process, okay? But typically every year it comes back pretty darn close to that. I mean, we haven't, it hasn't been less than that.
And didn't we already decide to apply that 100 to the existing budget?
Correct.
So effectively, would we be using the 54 or?
Conceivably we could, or there's other areas if we go into a deficit situation. I think one of the big elephants in the room is the $80,000 paycheck. If that loan's written off, that's an additional $80,000 of funds that's available for us. And Clark, do you have any idea? Do you think that's a 90% deal or 95 or 100%?
Yes.
90 or above.
It looks pretty solid, so I think we're okay from that.
It's not gonna be hard.
Yeah, and Susan's done a wonderful job of documenting it, and I tell you what, and I think what our ask on that was legitimate, it wasn't excessive, okay, and I think we got, speedy approval, and she's applied it and come up with it. So to answer your question, I think it would be a combination of, potentially the 54,000. The other way you look at it is, we could just do it under the chemicals and say, hopefully that we save money elsewhere on that, or come back and ask for further money down here. I think one of the things we wanted to be transparent, because Clark has brought it up, we wanted to say we listen, and we're trying to address an issue, and we'd like to address an issue before it gets out of hand. So
I agree. I want to do it. I just want to make sure we're being financially prudent in how we do it. And the 100,000 that we talked about is already factored into the existing budget, and we set the rates based on that. So I think we need to use the 54,000 if we can do that. So that's my point.
Yep. So Randy, is that a motion? And
We
form
want
of
to make a motion.
That's
We
my
try to
motion.
go to the next. Yeah, give Brian 90,
Great.
up to 10,000.
Up to $10,000. Do we have a second on Randy's motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, Clark seconds that. Okay. Now, let's open it up for further discussion. Any amendments, suggestions, Kathy or Jim, anything to caveats?
I don't know what the procedure is to say we fund that out of the estimated $54,000 balance that we'll have after this current year's.
Right,
The
okay,
previous
so-
years is.
So that would be like an amendment
Yes.
to Randy's motion.
Yes.
It's called excess.
Right. Okay, so then we need a second on Jim's proposed amendment. Okay, Kathy seconds that. Okay, so all in favor of Jim's amendment to Randy's motion, say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, so now the motion stands as Randy's plus the one change to how we fund it. Other comments, questions, amendments, suggestions?
I think when you spend $10,000, you ought to have a reference.
Okay. So you would further amend it by saying that we need to see a reference acceptable to Randy and Charlie? Okay with you, Charlie?
Jackie, do you know what type of fertilizer he puts on the green? Do you trust him? Do you know what type of pre-emergent he puts on the surrounds?
My ex-husband was
Well,
assistant superintendent at Lakewood Country Club for several years, and I know how salespeople work. And it pays to touch base with your partners that are already been dealing with them, just to make sure.
Well, I think, that's what I think he's done, he had to report it.
Well, that's not what I heard, so
Yeah.
he actually, it was not just a sales guy on farm stuff.
So I think what Kathy's saying is, if we have a reference that's acceptable to Randy and Charlie, then they can go on and approve him to do that. So that's, I guess, a proposed amendment as well. Do we have a second to Kathy's amendment? Okay, then, okay, all in favor of Kathy's amendment to that? Anybody opposed? Okay, so, Jim, you got all this down?
No, hopefully later.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Okay, so to summarize, Randy's motion is to approve up to $10,000 for next street hunt, with Jim's amendment, that would be coming out of the excess O&M funds from the, just previous fiscal year. And that, it's subject to, recommendations obtained by Brian that are acceptable to both Charlie and to Randy. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, so motion passes. Land Use Committee, we had Lori Brindle there, and I understand Jim is gonna make, that update for us now. And I printed these out. Do we, you know,
I just handed them out.
Oh, you did
I
print
printed
them?
them too. Thanks.
Okay.
But, yeah, Lori,
Killed an
we
extra
saved
charge.
Lori from coming because of the COVID concerns. She's not having to come, but I believe she's watching online, so she can call me and correct me if I say it wrong. But, the land committee had met a couple of months ago and reviewed a number of lots of, about nine or 10 lots that we have that are owned by the POA. And with the idea, you know, we went through lot sales several years ago in the POA, but there's these still additional lots. And some of them have some special conditions related to drainage, and some have other things. So there's one set of lots towards the bottom of what you're looking at that may, some of the detail in that may need to go to executive session. So I'm not going to detail that other than just say these are the recommendations we take those lots to executive session. Or if not necessarily tonight, but sometime. So let me run through, the land committee is recommending that lot 1878, which is the lot next to the property that we were talking about earlier for commercial. It actually has a POA sign on it, and there's some parking across that lot, and a fence on that lot. So the land committee recommends to hold that lot, not sell it. There are also two lots, 356 and 357, that are near the driving range. And the land committee would recommend that the POA hold those lots and combine it with the acreage and whatever plan we put together or the POA puts together on acreage.
That's not the curve. The last house.
Yeah, those
and
last-
then the
yeah,
curve,
exactly.
the last curve.
It's right there.
It has a lot of those yellow balls in it for some reason.
That's right
And
there.
the electrical easement is right behind it, between it and the driving.
Right. So the
Yeah.
land committee, parks, and long-range planning are looking at long-range plans for all of the acreage that's over there to the west of that. And since that's the driving range and several of the balls there, we think we need to take that all into consideration when we build the plan. So recommending hold those lots. And so really where we may see some immediate action tonight is the lots 239, 1250, and 1277 is just the recommendation to allow POA or Charlie and the team to gather comps and put lots 239, 1250, and 1277 up for sale. There may be a complication, a lien complication on one of those lots, but Charlie, I think, knows how to work through that. So, and that's just whatever, we can put those up to market value to deal with however you want. And finally, there's 3 other lots that, as I said, there's some special conditions which we would need to apply to these lots, and then maybe have to go through special pricing and request to talk to owners next door to those lots. So I think we should save that for an executive session.
So we have this one up here, the 239, no issue with selling unless on a master plan for usage.
Okay, that lot,
That's that lot right there with the 2 trees.
that's on the east gate entrance there. It's right next to the east gate. That's a lot that's available. And then, so it's just a note from, again, the Lake May, it's like security, thought we needed to use it for that gate or something, and hold it, but we don't have any special use for that lot. It'd be a good lot to sell. It's a nice lot.
I will let this, with the Eastgate, addition of a lane, if we do that over there, so we change some of that line.
And maybe I'm jumping ahead of another question you might have, but the other one, there was no issue on 1250 and 1277 is up on the horseshoe, on the north side, and it has it could have possible flooding issues. I think you can build that lot to avoid the flooding issues, so it's cost secure, so to speak. So there's going to be some market to factor that in. And we as a POA should provide full disclosure to it.
Yeah, that's the main thing I'm thinking about is, we keep having people come up and say, well, I built a house and I'm having flood problems.
Right.
So I just want to be sure we do that. So,
Jim, I think that one's right here, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
So they're building on that one over there.
This one's built on.
Yep.
And to Jim's point, the issue is this creek right here. So the 1% flood is a different elevation back here than it is for you all that have houses on the lake. Okay, the 1% flood, formerly known as the 100-year flood, is 705. Back here is, I think it's elevation like 706 or 706 and a half, because the elevation goes up. But when you consider all the water that goes through there, that would be an issue. I think on the FEMA flood map, this probably shows as a 1% flood.
backs up there before it gets to the lake.
Yeah,
Where's 1250?
I'll show you that. That's Cayuga, isn't it?
That's in Pawnee.
I think it's this one right here. There's another vacant lot here that's privately leased.
Just a very wooded lot there.
This one is one that we took deed in lieu of, and it had tax lien. We thought it was easy to fix, but right now the IRS is not responding because they're shut down due to COVID-19 and all this other stuff. So I think ultimately we'll get it there, and this could be a pretty valuable lot. I mean, it could be in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000. So.
Okay, do we need any kind of motion on this, or are we just gonna?
I might.
Well, you can't take, because
Yeah.
I didn't put discuss and take possible action, it was just an update.
An update.
So I think Jim alluded to, at future meetings, put something in on the executive session or even on the, hey, do it. The good news about it is you can go around and look at him based on what he's put together here, and they put some good thought into it, so.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Lori. And
Jim Fox, Parks and Recreation.
We've had 2 Parks and Recreation Committee meetings. The last one that we were at, in your packet, there's a couple of recommendations that came out of the committee, so I'll just go through those very briefly. I think people are aware that the Angler Conservation Club is interested in a fish weigh station, and so they've asked for input from Parks and Recreation, so the committee looked at that. And what I think everybody's concerned about is the aesthetics. They would like to have it right here where they've been doing the weigh-ins. They're doing it on a picnic table right here by the pump house on the new pavilion. And so one of the thoughts is that a recommendation coming out of the group was it could be integrated into the pump house. So an extension or a deck or something could be put out there. And the pump house at some point in the future could be made to look a little nicer, could be compatible with the pavilion and what we're doing up here right now. That would probably be an appropriate timing to try to add on to that and have create what they are looking for at that point. So that was the recommendation from the committee, was that it just be integrated into a future pump house update. Any questions on that?
And would the ACC pay for that? We would pay for that?
They have raised some money in memory of Don Schneider. So there is some funding available. I think they said they would be willing to try to raise a little bit more. I think the amount of money that may be involved, even without integrating it into the pump house, is probably beyond what they've raised. So I think they are looking to move it probably to the long-range planning committee and look for funding.
They've already given the money to us, to the POA, right?
Yeah.
I think so, because we've got
Couple thousand.
and it's about 2,500.
Yeah.
2,500, and they've already gotten a plaque on the tree for that contribution. But the amount to do the project is probably double or triple that.
Yes. So,
my question was, are you recommending that we put the pump house and this long-range plan?
well, I think really what the next step would be was, I don't know, Powell or some construction folks we could get together and kind of look at that and brainstorm an idea and come up with a budget number of what that might take. So I'll be glad to try to keep moving that forward a little bit and see what we could get in the way of a quote. Then we can move it to the long-range planning committee for prioritization. Sounds good. Okay. Another item was that there is a tree donation. Lillian has gotten the form to me and everything, and as part of the donation process, it was the Parks and Recreation Committee needed to look at location and what was being proposed. A couple of locations were reviewed for the donation of a tree. The committee came up with a recommendation to go ahead and have one here at the pavilion. And I believe they've raised almost all of the money, $1,000. And again, I just talked to Julia Hendry, who is the one who has been kind of spearheading this in memory of Mr. Brand. But anyway, they will, she's in acceptance of putting the tree here by the pavilion. And one of the pluses to that is that we can irrigate the tree and don't have to hand water or put a gator bag or something on that. Saw Mark's Wofford today, and said, we can easily add a drip line or a bumper head to it, so it would help ensure the survival of that. We don't really have a specific location. In fact, we'd like to identify, the committee was kind of talking about identifying trees around the pavilion, pre-identify where they don't block views, and maybe replace some of those so that for future donors, we could show them a map and say, here's where we need a few trees. Are you okay with that? And at the same time, this one could be placed in an appropriate location on the pavilion. So anyway, the main thing was we would recommend approval of the donation for it to be located in the vicinity of the pavilion.
I guess one thing that comes to mind is the recreation center. We're thinking about how it fits into the buildings. So we just want to build it on top of a tree.
And that's why I think, you know, if we could get together a facilities committee or Randy Howell and a few people, and I talked to Mark again about it, we could walk around and say, let's not block a view, let's not put it over here where we think we might build something, and let's identify those locations and pick the best one for this particular tree.
One of the considerations to this was when we had the original proposal for the septic system out there, that field was going to be out. Well, that field is not there anymore.
Right.
So all of that property that's off the backside of the parking lot, going all the way down to the fishing barge and boat slips and everything, all that's available.
This was a suggestion that actually came from Landon Howell was, I don't know if y'all saw the new sign that's out there in the landscape beds, really nice looking little sign, was in that vicinity, which probably would not conflict with any future fitness center or anything like that, was you'd have this walk up along that path and have a tree there. So there was a suggestion, one thing we could look at as a possible location, so.
Okay.
Again, the recommendation is to accept the donation.
Okay.
Just a question on your notes. It says that, located on where, based on the landscape plan. Is there a landscape plan?
Mark Swafford has a plan for the landscape around there. There are no trees on there. The committee wanted to make certain that we were planning it in an appropriate location. And so that's why I suggested we put together and add that to this landscape plan for the appropriate locations for trees.
We're working on the landscape plan, and Mark has submitted that as part of the big budget. But it's not, we haven't completed that yet.
These trees that I'm talking about would be donated trees, so it would not be part of the budget, but we could locate it on the plan. And Mark said that'd be easy enough to do, so that we have that for the future.
I mean, that's why I was asking the question, because the plan, you put it where the plan said, but there's no plan, so you're saying that's another plan.
You're supposed to add it.
But we need to identify where good locations are. We just don't want to stick it on our plan and say, you know, obviously blocks of view, so.
Yep. So I guess since we didn't take possible action on this agenda item, that we just tell Jim to keep plugging ahead with the actual plan, that we vote on it next month? Yep. Yeah, so.
And that's fine. The tree, the donor understands we don't want to plant a tree until the preferred tree planting season this winter anyway. So that's fine. We can wait on the actual acceptance of the donation.
Okay. And then third thing, we already voted.
Charter we've taken care of.
Right. So.
Is you may remember at a previous meeting, we were asked about cost of, or about improving the trails. And there was some discussion about the trail south of the dam and also the horseshoe up there. So we did look at some costs associated with putting decomposed granite down in those areas. The committee doesn't feel like it's a real high priority. They're functional trails as they are right now. But to at least have, to be able to answer questions about could we improve those trails, here's a general budget figure for the cost of installing decomposed granite. Now understand that drainage issues or the removal of excavation of asphalt millings that are there now, any of those kinds of issues are not in them. They're still a pretty good sized number. So the dam, the one south of the dam is approximately $30,000 just for installation and materials. To cover the 2/3 of the mile we have in the horseshoe would be about $65,000. Nobody really wants to do that without making certain the drainage to be properly addressed anyway. So, but there are some pretty good sized numbers. That's less than doing asphalt concrete if people are thinking about, you know, paving some of those trails and making them nicer. So that's at least a number that could go into the long range planning for a soft surface trail. So that would be the recommendation, is that we at least list that as a part of and move it on to the long range planning, including the pipeline.
Yep, good idea. Okay. Any other questions for Jim on his update? Okay, thank you, Jim. Sam, safety and security.
Well, as you can see, safety and security, we've got quite a few things here tonight. We've been working on, all of these probably since last year's time. And it's come to the point where at this point we want to bring it to the board. The first one is the issuing cards and toll tags, and you have a handout, page 31, which, our last safety and security meeting, Charlie brought to the committee. And we looked at it, we made our comments, we recommend the board looking at it. And the first one is the toll tag proposal. And Charlie, you can jump in here anytime that you want to. But with the amount of traffic that comes into the POA through the guard shack, especially with contractors and some of the non-members, the thinking was it would be good to, in some cases, contractors, non-members to sell toll tags to be able to move into the right lane and come through and avoid the backup that happens each morning there at the guard shack on the left lane. They would be issued to, in some cases, is the volunteer fire department employees, county, sheriff, EMS, environmental. Entrance passes of people that have them according to bylaws, and routine access to single households, maids, house managers, caretakers, etc. They'd be issued for a 6-month card. Currently, we issue 6-month cards to these people, but no toll tags. No charge currently, recommend a $5 for a card or $30 for toll tag. Limited access time from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. That, as we were told, to be handled with the computer system. And no use of common facilities except the restroom. As you see down, it says a trial period for a small number of the ones listed above before full implementation. I'm kind of coming up, it's not hard and fast as how many, but let's say we could authorize Charlie to implement or 10 tags or 15, whatever number we wanted to come up with for 3 months, and then reevaluate it at that time to see if we actually benefited from this as far as the traffic coming in. And if not, then we could do something else.
You're saying that the current system has the ability to track these toll tags coming in and going out, and at the end of the day at 7 p.m. gives you an exceptional list of what came in and did not leave?
No, I won't say that part. We don't have,
How do you monitor that?
Scott can always run a query, but it would be after the fact. We would have to run a manual query of these days.
So,
Find all the ones that did.
we have no registered data of anybody leaving here. We know when you all come in, but we don't know when you leave.
So we wouldn't really know.
So let me dovetail back here, and this is the first chunk of the proposal. Okay, Sam mentioned that. The ones that are listed up above, members, independent children, yes cards, employees, fire department, county, we're currently doing those, okay? The bylaw specifies entrance passes may be issued to persons such as domestic workers, contractors, or other temporary visitors whose use of common facilities is limited. That has been granted to me to do that, okay? And that's just for people that are typically tied to just one household. So just hang with that right now. It's typically just one household, okay? We're going to talk about people that go to multiple households here down below, further down here. So this is just here. I know of numerous people. I had 3 requests this weekend of issue a 6-month pass for Joe. Joe comes in and does just my house here at Kyle, okay? We typically have done that, and we've done it for free, okay? It requires us to track it, input, print a card, and all this other stuff, okay? It hasn't allowed toll tax, so what Sam's asking for is, or what I'm asking for through Sam is to charge $5 to issue that plastic card, okay, because it is an administrative bit, okay? Everybody here, you're members, okay, and so when you join membership out here, we gave you those cards for free because, you know, you invested in property, you did, you know, all this other stuff. When you lose a card, we charge you to replace it, okay? But we're also saying we would open up the toll tax for these, okay? And Sam said we would test it, we wouldn't broadcast this, we would put it into place with people that are requesting it currently right now, and we would say, now there's a charge for this, it's $5 per card, and if you would like for that person to have a toll tag to get in, we can do that for $15, okay? Now, excuse me, $30, thank you. Right now, you all are 15. Clark, your comment is, these people here, we can allow them to only get in between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. At 7:05, their tag is not going to activate the gate mechanism.
To go in.
To go in.
We don't have it.
Yeah, we don't have a gate on the exit, so they're leaving, you know, a whole bit.
No, but I'm just thinking out loud, can we put one of those readers over there that hits that? Like, you know, you go down the Dallas North Tollway, all those readers are way up there, you know, and you just go, you've got that thing and you go through there and it's happening real quick.
The system we're looking at.
Can look at those lanes and pick that up. Or, you know, put it on top of the pole or on top of the new guardhouse.
So let's go back to what Sam was talking about here, okay? Just think about this group right here, okay? These are typically, I don't know if any of you have a dog walker that just comes to your house to walk dogs on a regular basis. You can give them a card for $5 and toll tax for $30. We've got a bunch of these, you know, floating around out there, and for me, it's, you know, the other thing of issuing them a card is, then we're not having to issue another card every 6 months, so this card would be effectively, well, actually, at 6 months, it would shut down, and they'd have to re-verify that they're still coming here. Well, we wouldn't charge them extra to reactivate their card at that point. So part of this is under the bigger premise of trying to get the good people in faster, keep the bad people out. Okay, we're determining these are good people, because then we'll have vehicular information about them, we'll have other information in our records on it. So that's really the thought process there. So, okay, you want to go through the next one?
You want to take it?
I'll wait until I can ask a question about that. So there's this definition, it's in the bylaws, is what I think I understood. And then right below it, then it turns around and says maids, house managers, caretakers. You're just trying to use that as an example.
Yes. Yes.
Because what we're saying is anybody that can get a card, and eventually after the test period, will be able to get one of these.
Toll tax.
Toll tax. That's the intent.
Right.
Anybody that the member designates and is responsible for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's tied back to your specific lot in this case, okay? If you had, and we've got multiple examples of this. You may have a house manager that manages several of your properties that comes and visits. You may have a lawn guy that just comes up and does just yours here. You know, you may have an aquarium person, you know, that just comes and does that. There's all kinds of different iterations out there. We probably more often we have a number of people that are one-off caretakers, you know, that are tied to your lot that will come in, and as long as, I mean, you as the owner are responsible for that. Okay, you as the member are responsible for that. And that's not taking any of this away right here, it's just automating it.
That's all good.
Yep.
I just suggest that when we go to make this a rule, that it clearly states park owners and that it's tied to a membership, so people understand the rule, wherever that rule. But I think that's a great idea.
Well, that actually is another, that I believe is specified in the bylaws, and it does specify, and
Oh,
Jim,
cardinal,
you
yeah,
bring up an
cardinal.
interesting point, because there's components of our membership in the covenants and the bylaws and the rules. I mean, you gotta thread it all together. But what you talk about, it clearly states that when you as a member invite somebody up here at Lake Kiowa, you're responsible for it. I mean, and I.
It clearly states that a card holder, you can't get a card without getting member approval, and you can't get, and then in this term, you usually get cards, or you can have a toll tag with a card, that it's a reference.
What about the lawn guy that comes out and does 10 or 15 houses here, or a maid service that does
You're
multiple
getting ahead of
houses?
yourself. You're getting ahead of yourself. Let's cover down here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is like herding cats, right, Sam?
Yeah, yeah. Just skipping on down the website, requested guest passes is handled as we handle it now. Calling service providers waive for it. In other words, at this time, the UPS, like FedEx, UP, and Postal Service are waived for it. So there's not a problem there. The future proposal for toll tags would be registered contractors. It would be an entirely different thing that each program to be considered. Before a person would be able to get one of these toll tags, we'd want to know their tax ID, insurance, who's the responsible person with that sign, no common use of the facilities, plastic cards, $5, toll tags, 30, routine access to multiple households, such as lawn care, maids, food service, pest control, limited access again, 7 to 7 p.m., and non-routine access to multiple households, contractors, septic pumpers. This would be futuristic after we see how all of it works. I had Estes about, I was kind of mentioning to him what, we did. He said, man, I'd pay $100 to be able to not have to wait. So, I think that some contractors do it. Like I say, it's a proposal. I think we kind of, from a committee standpoint, felt that we needed a trial period. Let's see if it works before we implement anything more.
So let me differentiate. Rick brought it up, okay, is the first one is for an individual that provides typically service just one household, and that ties back to your lot, okay? In this case, we're creating a new class, and it's called registered contractors, okay? And what we have to do is we have to set it up in our billing software, which is TOPS, okay? And then they become an entity, okay? And they have to provide, and we just listed some of the stuff here, tax ID, insurance. Then the person probably, the president of their company or whoever's going to sign for the document will have to sign it. We'll have to come up with a form of saying that, hey, this is only for access from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You can only, legitimate business uses, no use of any common facilities except restrooms. We'll let them use restrooms. And the thought is this would be more for the landscapers. Now, some of the landscapers are going to see this as a tax on them, okay? But we're formalizing it because some of them just, they have enough business in there, they just get in and out. Where a lot of them might say, I love this place, is we can sell them a toll tag for $30 and they can get in the right-hand lane. And then we have ways to track when they come in, we don't have when they leave. Okay, so he has Estes, Image Docs has approached me. There's an electrician that does a lot of business out here. So there's a number of people that are saying, hey, I want to get in here quicker. And I do think that this is a way for us to track it. We have the ability, DSX, the system's working. Now there is going to take some work to get it all buttoned up or whatever we go to with the new bid. But I do think it's something, once again, we're trying to get people in faster. And the majority of these are going to be marked vehicles too. Now, there are going to be some that are unmarked. You see the landscapers. I don't know how many landscaping companies we have coming in here. It's got to be 2 dozen or more. So.
Question, it says plastic cards, $5. Would those be issued to the contract, the company, or would that be each individual? Because there's going to be a lot of turnover. for those people.
I understand that, okay? The thought process is that you didn't issue them to the individuals, okay? And we have to have information from them, the whole bit. So, and if that's gonna be a cost of doing business for them, and you're right, there will be turnover, and they'll need to let us know that.
Not that they need a card. A card is for access to the facilities, and we're denying that. I mean, am I missing something?
It was, really the intention was to just, know who actually, get a better handle on who was coming in. That was the thought process behind it. But it's new ground for us.
Yeah, no, I would-
Yeah, okay. So, new ground, so.
Overall, yeah, I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Would there be a designation on the card, contractor or whatever?
We've got a lot of flexibility in those types of things.
Because if I quit the company and I got this card, I can delete it. I just go through the card, on my card, I'm in.
Well, that's the other that's the other reason why it would be up to the employers to notify of that, so we can shut people down. You are correct on that one.
You want to cover that last one, the proposed for this passage?
Actually, that's something that Nina's working with right now in terms of permitted jobs, enhanced process. She's allowing an e-check by dispatch, which she sends the information to the people in the window, and they're checking it, going it. I will say again is that we are doing on an average of about 200 guest passes a day for the last couple of weeks. So the numbers are enormous, okay? We developed a semi-automatic system where that's, when you do it online, it goes into the computer. Is it Google Forms ports it over to a computer by the window. When somebody rolls up to the window, they say, I'm Joe Smith, gonna go see Jim Fox. They see it on the screen, they go click, and the people come in. So it's significantly better than anything we've had. Scott Manning came up with that himself on his own. Okay, so he did a wonderful job with that. So we're getting that in. But Nina's, we're also working through, this is when it gets really hairy, okay? When you're building a new house, the owner grants the general contractor the responsibility for workers' passes. So every subcontractor that trickles down below comes through that general contractor. So you look at the 12,000 square foot house on the east side and think of the amount of subcontractors that are coming in. It's absolutely enormous, okay? And it can be a nightmare for us to keep track of that, okay? So that's something that we don't have all the answers on. Nina's working on that, but we really like to get, more sophisticated with that now. Once most of the lots are built out, then we'll be only in remodels, so it may taper off a little bit, but it's still, the next couple of years is gonna be pretty crazy with this one. So there's really no action on this one at this point in time. You got your 2 action points up here, with the one being for the assigned to the individual lots, and the others for registered contractors. So,
We want to do a registered contract.
I'd like to go for it if everybody feels like they have the appetite for it, so. That's up to you all. So.
All right. Make a motion. So we make a motion? Make a motion that we approve the proposal for toll tag applications for individuals as noted in this document and for registered contractors to be applied by the community manager, or implemented, I guess you'd say, implemented by the community manager, with a trial period of 3 months before full implementation.
So you come back here to talk to us about how it went?
Yes. And after 3 months, we'll look at it, reevaluate it, and then come back before we implement it for more participants.
And I've got a handful interested parties that I think would be interested with doing it under those conditions, before we go out and broadcast and advertise it and go from there, so.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Kathy? Any other questions or comments? All in favor of said motion, say aye. Anybody opposed? Good. Do you need to make the second motion or? Is that-
He had both in it.
Yeah, you did the same one. Okay. Perfect.
I think Steve wants to make a restroom break motion. Okay.
All right, let's do the restroom break and, so let's be back at 8:40 and hopefully we'll plow through everything else after that.
Okay, let's go back into, session here, following up, item 2 under safety and security with Sam.
Okay, the next thing is the, possible action on improving the east gate. And, we looked at this quite a bit too. And, Charlie has the overhead. I'll let Charlie kind of go through this one here.
And what Sam's talked about for the action is, we're not asking for any dollar amount at this point. We're talking about moving the project in the planning stages further down the road. Because we did talk about this 6 or 7 months ago. The Comanche Gate came up, COVID-19 came up, so it kind of got sidetracked, okay? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's some things that we listed: 30-second cycle time, entrance delays, larger vehicles, traffic buildup. We've got a 20-year-old lift master system, higher repair costs, deteriorating asphalt, the whole bit. In the summer, believe it or not, I'm not making this up, in the summertime, the components heat up and they tend to malfunction more often. Okay, so that's why we see more issues right now. Okay. Here's the east gate. I think everybody's familiar with it. We saw this lot down earlier. This was taken with the semi truck turning in right here and waiting for the call. Here's the exit right here. Okay, current main entrance on the left, current exit lane on the right. Okay, center lane was not utilized. We were told that this center lane or this area was put there for the possible future addition of a guardhouse over there. Okay, so 20 years ago or 25 years ago, when they were planning this, they go, well, let's put another guardhouse over there. So you know that it's significantly more expensive to staff it with real people and pay benefits and all that good stuff. So technology is their solution, so that we don't need that for a guardhouse. We talked about, this is where we were way back when, 6, 9 months ago, creating a new middle lane is a new member entrance, toll tag only, installation of arms, okay, elimination of the metal slider gates, elimination of the lift master barrier arms, and utilize the existing entrance lane as a guest line for wider, longer vehicles, and locations and no barrier arms. So we've got some different things here. Okay, so you would remove these lift master arms right here. This area is about 17.4. Removal of all slider gates right here, this one here, and this one over here. Removal of this stuff, create an entrance lane. These little boxes here need to be taken out, okay, because you need to be able to get a vehicle through there. We may have to relocate this fence just a little bit to open this area up and make it bigger. Removal of existing gate arms here, removal of the sliding metal gate. We haven't, this sliding metal gate hasn't been used in years and years. It's just sitting there. Yeah, okay. So here's kind of a diagram of what it would look like. Don't pay any attention to this right here. People would continue to exit here. Members could come in with the toll tag and go through right here. Okay, one of the big questions we have, are these people required to turn left, or can they figure it out and turn right if there's no vehicles here? And the same thing on this truck here. And the, people coming in this lane, we've talked about requiring them to take a right here, okay? And then they would take the left on, I think it's Iroquois right there. So this is really kind of the thought process with 3 lanes. And there was been discussion about double gates versus single gates, okay? And different people have different opinions on that. Right now at the front, we only have single gates, right? Now, you do have a guard sitting there, but if there's a truck in the inside lane and there's members on the outside lane, you can't see who the heck's going through there anyway. Okay, so it just works. The new gates we saw at Pecan Plantation, they're significantly faster than the gates we have right now, significantly faster. And so that would be the improvement on that. So, and this is a drawing of it, and you see this here. We originally thought about making this fairly complex with some different bollards or fencing type. I don't think we really need to do that. Jim Fox is shaking his head. You know what? They figured out at the front gate pretty darn well, don't they?
I don't say you got it at the front gate.
I think people are pretty courteous. I think people are pretty understanding at the front gate, and I think we're having the same thing back here. I think if we're not careful, we'll overcomplicate this thing and make it harder than it really is. So, you know, from that standpoint. So ultimately though, I mean, once again, everybody with a toll tag in a normal vehicle could come right through here, right there, okay? This one would be the guest lane, and ultimately somewhere down the road, if we get to a software system where we can send a guest pass that has a scan code or a QR code to their smartphone, we may be able to have a reader on this one right here, so they could come up, zap it, and go in from that standpoint, and going into Eastgate. That's down the road.
The big trucks and stuff would go through the gas lane.
Yes, big trucks go through the gas lane.
Can vendors only go through that one? They can't go through both of them?
We would have a toll tag reader set up on this one, not this one.
That one only?
Yes, this one only. So, now the thought process, this one should blow through pretty darn quick. It should be as fast as, no, excuse me, let me retract that statement. It'll be significantly faster than the current right lane in the front gate because of the slowness of the arm.
It's 4 seconds to get in.
I think when they bought those arms way back when, they were already discontinued, we bought them at a bargain.
You got it cheap.
Yeah, we got them cheap.
So, question.
Question back here.
Yeah, I hear.
So this sliding gate was to keep runners from running it. And what you're saying is we don't have any experience in the front gate where they're doing that. We don't think that would be a problem in the back gate either.
Yes. So a double gate system would clearly eliminate the runners, but it's going to slow things down, you know, pretty dramatically. The other thing that has changed most recently is we've got fiber optic over there now. So we've got, you know, much better the ability with the cameras at the front gate. If we see a runner, we can play back the video, get the license number, and go find them. Okay, and that's actually what we do, and that's going to be a major component of what Sam's going to talk about with the next one we go to the guardhouse. You know what? Video is not, it's here. We need to take better advantage of it.
What I saw happen right in front of me today, going east, was semi was going in, somebody rolled right on its tail. And went right at the gate, started to try to come down. It read that this guy was going through it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen that before, but
We've had that happen before.
Stupidity. Yeah. Jim Fox.
I had the same thing happen where a semi went through, and the gates just stayed up. So I stayed there, but I stayed for a minute or 2 minutes, and they stayed up. And I'm like, well, how long am I gonna have to wait for the gate to come down? So there's some cycling issue there too with that, so.
The other thing is, yeah, and part of that might be this stuff is 20 years old. I mean, and this would be a major upgrade for it. One thing is we were sitting, the price to do all this, when we got bid 6 or 9 months ago, was about $30,000. Okay, so it's not a huge number, and a lot of it would be covered under ARP. We've got money in ARP for it, so it's very little money. But I guess what we're looking for today is directionally, are you all comfortable with this concept right here? Jim?
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I would say you made 2 points about the flow of traffic and the barriers to flow, and we could always go back and adjust later.
Better on that.
I would think even if we found that the video can't keep up with the runners, we can always add a gate later. Might as well start with this lower cost version.
And we talked about pre-doing conduits in the pavement, so we add that. But yeah, I think we're good. Instead of trying to build a Fort Knox fortress to begin with, and besides what Steve just brought up, we have very few issues with people crashing in here and causing problems. I mean, when you think about it, we're very fortunate, but I don't want to make it conducive for people to do that, but I don't think we would make it conducive, so.
We had talked to Tony Ham on the east side, 2 gates, or 2 arms. it got to where we thought it was a problem.
Yeah, that's what we talked about, adding a double track later on, yeah. So really, unless anybody objects, there's no decision here. I do think there will be what we may have to do is get together, get the gate companies back out here and say, okay, are we really state of the art? Is this really where we need to go? The gate company was the one, they say, hey, we have security gates at Southwest Airlines, and we only have one arm. Okay, so it's like, okay, you're not more important than Southwest. So, yeah.
Just one comment. Sometimes I've kind of questioned how really important this would be. I mean, it does take 30 seconds to cycle it over. I pulled up the other day and the semi had pulled up and they were obviously calling for the gate to open. Before that gate got open, there were 7 vehicles on 211 behind it. So it appears that there's a lot of traffic.
And it's not getting better, it's getting worse, okay? And with the age of our equipment, we're gonna have to do something anyway, so why not upgrade it versus just replace? So, good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So what are we deciding right now?
To move forward to the next phase with this current,
So we're not voting on it.
I don't think you have to unless you object to it, because this is what we've been kicking around for about a year.
Yeah.
It's already in the law.
It's in the long range
I'm
plan.
just asking so we can, let's go on.
Let's go do it. Don't get grouchy on Steve. If anybody has a power, if anybody has a power bar, give it to Steve right now. Okay.
I think the whole intent is to get feedback from the board. Hey, this is the direction to go.
Okay,
Okay.
Next one.
moving on, discuss and take possible action on the guardhouse design fund.
Okay. We got,
Yeah.
PowerPoint on
Yeah.
that. The reason we brought up about the east gate, when we started talking about the guardhouse project, we kind of wondered, hey, we need to do this for the east gate to be able, in case we have a problem, get people into the main gate. So this is kind of the east gate is the lead in to what we want to do here. I went back in the history book that Lois, trying to remember last night, anyway, she wrote for Lake Iowa. This was the guardhouse that was built in 1991. And it was, they got into it in 1992. That's when Gary Davidson and them actually moved into it. So you can see it pretty much looks the same as it is what we have right now. And that was in 1991. So the security arrangements that we have here, as far as what they're supposed to do, I think we all know the rules as far as they are not actually commissioned officers as such for crimes, but we maintain security and traffic control for Lake Iowa. Next one. Some of the security functions we went through, and this again is something that we presented to the Safety and Security Committee, just to let everybody know, hey, what do they do? Because most people only do is see a guard shack and see a guy in there. There's a lot of things that go on as far as gate access, the cards, contractors, getting them in, guests getting them in. There's also the routine type things with delivery trucks, UPS, FedEx, utilities, so that takes up a little bit of the time. Vehicular control, patrol and lake patrol. During the summertime, very obvious, like during the 4th of July, lots of lake patrol plus other patrols that had to be done. Duties of locking and unlocking facilities, lodge, restroom, deliveries, animal control. I don't know if you ever call security to get them out, pick up stuff that you captured in a trap or something, but they do that. Assistance with vehicle boat issues, training, golf cart safety class, and boat operator safety training, investigation, cooperation with other agencies when they come in with ambulances or whatever, they're involved with all of that. So security functions are more than just sitting up there in a guard shack. So, this is picture taken from above, kind of give you an illustration of what it actually, I'm sure you do know, as far as the property that we have. These are the two LKPOA lots that have a parking lot on them. And then that residence is the lot that we're talking about, the house that's to be sold. This just gives you the indication of the dimensions, which really can't see anyway, but it shows the property that are on those two lots and consideration of what we could possibly do there if we had to, as far as building additional buildings for security. This is just to again show you the backup. This is not very much of one because I couldn't get all the cars that were waiting. Side view showing the parking lot, and rear view. This is a tower that, of course, for the radio that the security people use, and some of the equipment that are there in the back. And side view there again showing, and I'll kind of get into some of the things that we've discussed as far as that. Again, the parking lot. We even discussed in the security committee meetings, possibly an administrative building built here, which would in turn they could operate out of, but at the same time do the actual, let people in and out in the main guardhouse. So that was an option we thought about. Just kind of show you what comes in through there, and they have to deal with some more picture. Yeah, the parking lot. Consideration again is to possibly, if we had to extend the guard house, we could kind of come into that parking lot if we had to. We got that flower bed there for the flagpole. Just in case you haven't been in the guard house, this kind of gives you coming in the door as to what it is. The equipment and the wiring and all the monitors that they have in there. The way we have it set up now, like when you put in for a visitor, this is how Carl was able to see and get information as to people coming in. This is inside the chief's office, and displays that she has to look at, the more inside her office. This is the big snack bar. Lunchroom. This is their lunchroom and their coffee room to make their coffee. And the only reason I put this in here is to show the planning to allow for the guardhouse. And it has there as far as the design, and I'll kind of get into that. This icon had done a design, I think it was back in 2018. And they came up with what they kind of thought would be a good idea for a new guardhouse, a layout for plans, and also that it would be like a two-story. I think the next slide will show that. And it was kind of set aside. Nothing was done with the plans that came up. These were some of the questions that we felt had to be answered. Why does the guardhouse need to be replaced or remodeled? That's some of the questions that we had. Why do we have to do it? One of the things that we felt was necessary is for shelter to place into the guardhouse some type of tornado protection for the security people there, and also to make it more up to date for the equipment that's in there. What specific changes are required for the guardhouse? Again, going back for protection for the employees. How should we proceed with the guardhouse project? And again, going back, what can we do? We got to have the capability of getting people in and out of Lake Iowa. Do we do the east gate and then just wholesale kind of do whatever we got to do at the guardhouse here? It's something that has to really be considered and thought out. And when's the best time of the year for the project to begin? We don't have much traffic coming in and out. Probably in the winter time. As Clark mentioned earlier, he and I kind of discussed it, even though Safety and Security Committee has been working on this, coming up with ideas, so to speak. We will be working with the facilities in Clark. Just like I told another day, they have expertise as far as the vision as to what's needed and what direction to go. So it will be very much working together. On this project. So, Charlie?
If I can interject, I think Sam did a great job. This, the guardhouse has been something that's been talked about for years and years and years, okay? I think now it's on the project planning. He showed what we had Icon draw us. I wasn't thrilled with what they had presented way back when. We kind of run the gamut with them on the pavilion, time to have somebody else look at it. Sam charged me with saying, hey, how do we do this with as least impact as possible? So I think that we're back to the point of saying, let's use the existing footprint and not make it a square foot bigger than it currently is. Okay, let's just make it better and much better looking. Okay, one of the things we originally had in there was a lobby. Okay, I don't think we need a lobby there. Okay, what I think that we need to do is we've gone to the forms or toll tags for cars and boat stickers. And we actually had the discussion of moving that over to the POA office. So we can do that the same place they go to their membership cards, they can get the rest of those stickers, okay? That would happen Monday through Friday from 8 until 4:30. And on weekends, all of that stuff that people have applied for will go to the guardhouse and they can pass it through the window from that standpoint, okay? So that's, I think, problem solved with that. One of the things, a big thing that we talked about would be a safe room. And instead of building a FEMA style safe room, we found some modular safe rooms that are heavy metal pieces that are welded or bolted together. So I think if we were to keep the footprint here, you have to pull the roof off, you're gonna pull everything on the outside to make it look better. We may have to tear down the studs. We may have to go to the slab on this, because once we get into it, it may be ugly, okay, and cheaply done. But what you do is you drop in that, and what is currently the chief's office would become a safe room. And that way you can put, a chief would operate out of the safe room. And in the event of a storm, everybody goes in the safe room with the chief. You've got the computers and all that other stuff, okay? You have to have a restroom there. You've got to have one person at the desk and one person at the window. So it's really a three-person, a three-person operation. And I think we've got the square footage to do that. It's just old and dated. I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to spend $1 on the new guardhouse to do any fancy cabinetry with doors and all that. I think it needs to be like a command center and be very functional. You understand what I'm saying? Be very functional. It may be, and a lot of it is going to be computer racks, computer monitors, those kind of things. 2 chiefs ago, the chief said, hey, we need more windows on the guardhouse so we can see cars. No, we need more video cameras that's recording the cars coming in, and you play them back on a monitor if you've got a problem, okay? I do think another thing that we need to go to is complete contactless at the window, and not, if it's COVID-19 or 20 or 20, whatever the future holds, and it needs to be, so there's a window. We need to have a PA system like the bank has, where you push a button and you talk and you do it that way. We'll probably would incorporate a bank drawer into it, so if something does have to be passed, it'll be like that. It'll be arm's length and everything. So those are the kind of things we're thinking about. The big thing though is we have a contact here, Bluestone, who's Dr. Booth's son's business. Okay, they do a lot of finish out work. They do design work. They do multiple locations for companies that do work inside, that have things inside of Walmart or other retail stuff. So they're used to working in other people's space. I contacted them in March when this whole pandemic broke out with the thought, and they were really slow then. I don't know if they've sped up. They put together estimates, or actually a bid in terms of design cost here. I think they're very reasonable. They're in line with what I saw with Icon. There's not just a huge amount of companies you can go out there for these guys. I do like these guys because they've done retail, they've done banking, And I think we could tie into their, their banking experience from a security standpoint for that. So really the purpose of this tonight is to ask for the first $3,500 to get the design process kicked off. So.
Jim?
What the committee's thinking, or Charlie's thinking of, why does it have to be that footprint? Why can't, I mean, if we're going to video and we're going all this automated stuff, why does it have to be in that spot? Why can't it be all on that side spot? And I'm just saying, we allow Bluestone or the committee to say, what is the best way to do this? And it seems like we're limiting ourselves, and we have technology to do things differently, and we're saying, oh, it has to fit there. Maybe that piece of property has better use.
We agree. I mean, we've got so many options. We just need some help narrowing it down, I think.
So that's what this will do.
That's what, yeah. We don't want to say.
I didn't hear that.
Well, I think keeping the space as it is should save us some money. We start taking down walls and try to expand it. And as you see, it's pretty tight. And you've got a septic tank up there. We've got a lot of obstacles.
There's some infrastructure that's already there that I think we could possibly benefit from. Okay, I don't know that till we get into it. The slab may be a piece of junk, and that's a different story. We talked about that. That's been our entrance for 50 years, and there's been somebody in there, even if they're not. At nighttime, there's only one person in there. And I think we have to have the ability to somebody in the middle of the night for emergency or whatever. Now, having said that, I think we can add that to the scope of Bluestone's work here and say, hey, can you think of a better place to put this?
Well, we have the two lots right across the street. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, and we thought about
We talked about
that
that too, yeah.
because that's such a congested area that they're in, and it's, in a way, they're really exposed until we do build them something that keeps them safe. But it's almost like you've got to identify what's the roles and responsibilities, and do we need a guard at that spot at all? The technology is there today. Yeah, we have to spend a little money on the technology side. They could be anywhere, it doesn't matter. They could be in an office environment, they could be in a call center environment. Because they're going to be on the computer with phone or the radio.
The other thing, right now, the equipment, I guess you'd say the hardware equipment is out in that area right up front. Everything according to Scott, it would be very easy to continue having everything hooked up to the way we have it now at that location. So.
Right, I would argue you're sticking all that equipment in a safe room with an office. There's heating and AC issues with all that equipment.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things. Right, and I think limiting yourself to the same footprint really creates future problems.
Yeah, we even discussed that at the meeting where the tower is, possibly relocating that tower. There would be space, and again, that's going back to what these people would recommend that we do. There's space there that could be expanded to where you have even more room.
Now, I will tell you though something that let's don't discount. I think there's a certain comfort to having a guard in a guardhouse at our front entry.
We're saying the same thing, but it's just across the street.
Okay, so my dilemma is somebody's got to come up with what it looks like across the street. And if it's these people, yeah.
And that's why I'm coming here tonight to get $3,500 so we can get these people to work with us and maybe come up with a design that would be acceptable.
Good, but has the committee laid out some guidelines that they say you got to work within to give Bluestone to say, well, it has to have this many square feet, or it has to allow this equipment, it has to have this many people in it at one time? I mean, the committee done any of that? Or where are they going to get the starting point?
Well, what we added, I've added Scott Manning to the committee, so we have input from him on what's needed as far as what all. But as far as saying, hey, how many square feet, what's gonna be here, what's gonna be there, no, we did not do anything like that. That's why we wanna get them to help us.
As long as Scott and Tracy are part of the Charlie, are
And
part of.
Rich,
Yeah,
we got Rich
yeah,
involved.
we're all part of the definition.
Boosting on a drawing.
Yeah, right, they could, well, that's what I'm saying, they need to pull that out from those experts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that's, do you want to make that motion? Or is that a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion that, approves $3,500 to have preliminary construction documents generated by Leastone,
Okay. Steve, was that a second? That was the second down there? Okay. Any other questions, comments? Clark?
So to sign the agreement lays out full $11,000 program. So are you going to sign this agreement and just do that piece? How does how does signing this agreement say only do the one?
That's a good question. Charlie, can we, expect them to
I hope they would be,
break it out?
I hope they would be amiable to doing it a phase at a time. And I can't recall if I discussed that with.
That's that question. The other question comes from Mr. Fox. When we allow them to pursue the next task, what's the timeframe and accomplishment?
Probably something we'd have to spell out to them in the contract if we have.
I don't know if I understood the question.
When is the deliverable due back?
For the first part,
Each part.
Well, we'd have to specify.
But just, my suggestion, Clark sent that out, was just that they produce a schedule at some point that says, here's how we plan to deliver some things, so that right now, it just says as expediently as possible. So it'd be nice to know what their thoughts are on their time frames for producing.
So we need to just adjust the contract first. So
Well, you can terminate the contract before
we're going to start this process with,
I mean, I think it'd be.
and then we need to get a timeline built into it.
Yeah, as long as somewhere along the line, they would do that, right? I think that would be appropriate.
well, and they get paid when the work's completed. So hopefully they want to get the work completed and get paid. But yeah, I think that's fine. We can get with them. It's been a number of I reached out to them 30 or 45 days ago, said, hey, you all seem interested? He goes, heck yeah, I'd like to go with you.
Yeah, this document's March 20, March 2020, so we have to get a new document.
Hopefully, there are a lot of consultants that we work with, they tell you one thing and then they drag on and on and on. And you'd be wanting something in writing to say, look, you said you were going to produce by then, you're going to have the construction drawings on this day. It didn't happen, so it's just something to hold over their head if they don't produce.
Yep. Other questions? Jim?
I'm for moving forward with this, but I have a little concern on this document. I know it doesn't say, it doesn't commit us to anything, but in this agreement, it talks about this contractor, design builder's role and their intention to move to the construction management and do the next phase. I think we need to be real clear that we're going to put this out for a bid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this doesn't preclude that from happening, but it just kind of leaves it like maybe we're going along with that intention. I'm not sure it needs to be in there. That piece, that.
We told them that up front, but we can reiterate it. So I'd like to thank, Dr. Booth is a member out here. I think he understands the need for getting 3 bids and the whole bit. So yeah, we'll reiterate that.
Good point.
Let's make that, Charlie, correct me if I'm wrong, they do the extensive work for Walmart, like the, banks, that are inside Walmart, not a real small company, they do some job.
Other questions for Sam? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve up to $3,500. Some questions about redoing the contract, which Sam will take care of. Charlie. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Good. Proceed. Community managers report.
All right, some of this is repetitive, forecasting to finish the fiscal year with possible surplus of 40 to 50. Clark showed you a number of, 54,000, so that would be a good one. One thing I need to caution you about is future insurance rates are uncertain and most likely rising, okay? That's one thing you can pretty much bank on with this pandemic, that insurance prices are gonna go up. So we actually saw them go up a little bit. We are shifting. We've got our policies on a 6 month starting July 1st and going through the end of December. Then we'll get on an annual policy. He feels like with the general liability, that could be an advantage for us because it jumped up right now and he's hoping the market will normalize there. We utilize an insurance broker who's been with him for a number of years. He shops the individual policies out and goes on there. Drainage, basically overall, everything's on hold. I know last meeting we talked about putting the group together and I've got that on my list, with it being dry, nothing's pressing on that one. And so we will reconstitute that one. Communique ad sales continue to be strong, which is very advantageous. Golf course update, we talked about this in August of going through and doing the bridges at that point in time. Lodge sales, slightly ahead of budget so far this month. I told you earlier it was 1%. When I wrote this a couple of days ago, it was a little bit higher. This weekend was a little bit soft. Cost of goods sold trend is favorable. Okay, so when we changed US Foods, we took a slight price increase in January. At this point in time, cost of goods sold percentage looks good. We should, knock on wood, keep knocking on wood, we should be good to go. Our labor cost is a little bit higher than normal because their sales are, even though they're better than budget, they're below what we've been running, but I think we'll be, okay on that. I talked about tables are almost exactly right at 50% of where they were before, but the key thing is the 6 foot rules. If any of you follow the restaurant industry, I know Stephen, you probably know Stephen, I spent a career in it. The 6 foot rule is the most maddening thing out there. The largest full service chain in the United States, Darden they just can't, they're struggling with it. They ordered a bunch of plexiglass dividers, but not for all the restaurants. They're going to test it and see if it makes any sense to do it. So it's just a crazy time out there for it. So the roads were in process of soliciting bids for the fall work. Believe it or not, it's going to be road construction season, not too long out there. The money we have for the first 6 months will be half of what we normally spend in a year. The next calendar year will have the whole amount, okay? So there are some areas that have deteriorated pretty substantially, which is a concern. They were alligatoring before and now they've started to really pop up, okay? So those are the ones that we're going to address right off the bat. I do think overall the roads look pretty darn good throughout the majority of the community. We've gotten some positive feedback on that, but it's an ongoing process, okay? I talked earlier about the electronic forms are working well. We need to stay the course. We do have 8 people on our exception list that they can call in and we will enter the gate pass for them. That's 0.4% of the population. So 99.6% are currently doing it at this point in time. I had a conversation with a gentleman last week that was very upset at first, and I tried to walk him through the process, and he was wrestling with it. But when I put in the pass form, he goes, "I got an email, a guest pass authorization. This is great." Okay, so he was like digging it after I was finished with him, and I go, "Do you make your tea times on reservation online?" He goes, "Oh yeah, I can do that." So hopefully he's converted one guy there, but he's still on the list. July 4th ceremony was great. I think we kicked it off first thing in the morning. Clark was out there with the American Legion. I think they did a very nice job with it. And I'm hoping that's something that continues in the future with them on July 4th. So I think it's a neat event. Clark, how many people do you think you had out there? 15 from the American Legion or so? 15?
Yeah, 15 from the American Legion,
Okay.
something like that. Was that right, Sam?
Yeah. And then Alicia Cerna, I believe her name is. She knocked it out of the park.
She was really good.
She belts it, okay, and did a wonderful job. And then the golf cart parade, I said was okay. We had good participation. I think the carts were spaced fairly well. I think the new route had some big fans to it. I think we opened up and had about probably 20 to 30 additional households that could see the golf cart parade by adding on that route. I do think that there was a number of houses that had multiple mixed families in their yards, and they were not separated with masks and 6 foot. Nothing we could do. We did plenty of warning on that. That was their choice. There was a number of water slides around that weekend. I don't know if you saw those or not, and then some other parties, but it is what it is. I mean, that was great feedback on the fireworks. So I think the Flambeau Fireworks continues to do a very nice job with us, and I think it worked out great from that standpoint. So,
Any questions for Charlie on those items? Okay.
all right, I'm going to talk about spillway engineering, and then we've got to take possible action on a potential expenditure. This was presented to me on the Thursday after the board meeting 5 weeks ago on that Monday, okay? And I have to open it up saying it is good news, okay? It's good news what we heard early on. There's still more work to do. There's still some money to use, but believe it or not, that is somewhat of a rendition of our lake. This is Hogan over here. This is our spillway. You can see that's how it probably looks. It looks like it's on Mars, okay? So why are we here? The TCEQ determined that the downstream development exceeded 3 habitable structures. Dam classification changed from significant to high. Existing high hazard dams required to pass a minimum 75 of design probable maximal flood. Previously, 65% was required for significant hazard dams. Our modeling back in 1990 indicated that the spillway would pass 58% of the PMF, and they didn't require us to make any modifications to get that up to 65. So they cut us some slack way back when and gave us that 7% range, okay? The scope of this engineering was to evaluate the spillway capacity in the downstream breach inundation area using updated data and modeling techniques in an effort to determine whether the dam should be reclassified as a significant hazard and whether we may actually pass that 75%, which they considered unlikely. So think about it is, you know, the technology that was used 30 years ago is dramatically different than it is now. The storm model that the TCEQ that uses now has 30 additional years of storm data, okay? So this one was 46 inches in 72 hours is this storm. And they go, well, Hurricane Harvey. Well, Hurricane Harvey, it was down in Houston by the Gulf of Mexico where it has all that water to suck up. It's not going to have that much water here, but that was the deal. So this was the scope of their work: upstream and downstream terrain development, surface water, probable maximum precipitation inflow, and then evaluation. They completed the development of the upstream and downstream terrain mapping, the inflow, the routing through Lake Kiowa and the spillway, the evaluation of spillway capacity, and analysis of potential action items moving forward. So this is the stuff that they used. It's very, very detailed in here. So they talk about all the stuff that they use there. The preliminary results that they used 2011 LIDAR topographical data, and that's some type of satellite imaging to estimate the elevation levels, okay? Not 100% accurate, and we're going to get to that in a second. That's why additional money is needed. But it looks like the dam elevation to the right of the spillway, and I learned this that you always look towards the spillway as you're in the lake and you're looking out on the discharge. So the right of it has a low point of 710.7. That's on the boat ramp side. You understand what I'm saying? That's on the boat ramp side. The elevation on the left of spillway is 10 inches higher where the road comes across, okay? Duh, okay? So if you look at it, and if you stand over on Kiowa Drive south or west, whatever that is, you can look down there and go, the far side's about 10 inches smaller than this one, okay? And after they told me that, I go, golly, why didn't I realize that before, okay? So the highest model lake level elevation occurs during the 24-hour PMP. That's the most extreme part of the storm data up here. So the first 24 hours, I mean, it's just pounding away, okay? That's when the storm brings in all of this water and it drops most of it in that 24-hour period, then it takes off, okay? So the spillway capacity is 66%, which is higher than the 58 that was done favorably. So that in itself, they're high-fiving each other going, this is fantastic. Look, we have found 8%. We're almost to 75%. Now, theoretically, with what changes are downstream, it might even get us closer to that 75% number. The operative word is might. We don't know that for sure. Okay. But the bottom bullet point's the important thing. The hydrological models indicate the existing spillway may pass 75% of the PMF with minor modifications to the dam. So you wouldn't touch the spillway, we just do stuff to the dam. Okay, this looks like me in high school with graph paper, right? Okay, this is looking on the discharge side. The right-hand side is where the road is. Okay, there's some low point there, area there. This shows the spillway, and then this. See how this side is lower than this side right here. Theoretically, if you build this up to the same height, then you're going to hold back X amount more of water, okay? So, okay, this is a fancy animation, and the blue is going to be the rain coming in. You're going to see how it flows into the lake. And when it gets darker blue, that's not a good thing. The darker blue shows deeper water. And if you can see down at the bottom, you can see the spillway is discharging blue water down there, that little thing at the bottom. And here in a minute, you'll get to the point where you'll see the dam being breached on the left-hand side. Can y'all see that right down here? I don't know that it's breached it quite yet. What's that?
It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like it did. Okay. I think they needed to add music to this. They should have had some dramatic music. So, and this kind of shows you where the areas would possibly breach right there. This is their preliminary spillway capacity results, okay? If the current elevation is 66%, if they take it up, what is that, 6 inches or whatever, or 6 tenths, it takes it to 71, you go up to 11.5 is 73. So they're thinking we need to take it up a foot to get to 75%. Okay, so they're gonna, what we're asking for in here is they've contracted with All American, or they have contracted. They've contacted All American Survey about them coming out here and actually surveying different points of the dam and the spillway. We do have some surveys, some GPS, or some elevation marks at other places around the lake in years past. I've also asked them to include that in this surveying so we get these areas done. As an example, one of them is low water crossing 1, the other is low water crossing 2. We'll do spotted eagle bridges, just so we have, once you get a surveyor out here, it's cheap to have them do additional stuff, okay? But they'll actually survey the dam and then the spillway, and then we'll plug those calculations in there. So inspect the dam to evaluate low areas. You know, like I said, I went out and looked at it and go, that looks lower than the other areas, but they'll need to come out and do it. Additional modeling, possible reduced peak flow, passing of larger design, downstream dam breach undulation modeling. They're going to go ahead, they actually need to go ahead and do that to satisfy the TCEQ to make sure that that it all works together. So, potential dam modifications, dam height by up to 1 foot in area, considerably less costly than spillway. Their preliminary raised localized low levels of dam crest, 200,000 to 400,000. Okay, assumes reduced crest width and assumes meets engineering standards. Now, you know that the dam comes in at an angle here, so if you raised it too much, you come to a point. Okay, we can't really come to a point, so they've got to make sure they've got enough area to work with so they can still do something like this. It might even be that, we could build it up to a certain extent and then pour a concrete road on top of it to get the extra height of it. Okay, that's still cheaper than getting into the spillway and doing a coffer dam and all that other stuff. So they originally talking about spillway modifications of 1.2 to 2.5 million. One of the bullet points that we need to do, and we'll get to that point, is that we've got to rehabilitate or engineer the abandonment of the low flow outlet. You all know the orange thing out there that the carpet fishermen love to hang out at. Okay, that's actually, there's a valve in there that you can open and it lets water out of that. Okay, we've got to really, we can abandon that. Okay, but we need to have it professionally done. In the event of us needing to pump down or to lower the level of the lake, what you would do is you would go get big oil-filled, trash pump units, diesel units, and set them up on there, put a hose on this side, discharge hose on the other side, flip a switch, and it's going to go a lot faster than that 2 foot thing. Okay, the 2 foot valve there is 50 years old. 51 years old. I wouldn't want to be the guy to open it because you don't know if you're going to be able to close it. So that's something that we'll need to get,
But if you use that, the silt in the middle of the lake will go out with it, right?
Or the silt will clog it. So once again, this is some other stuff that we do on a regular basis. So really, when I had that conference call with them, their attitude is they're almost kind of beside themselves to a certain extent. They're kind of like, "Woo, this is pretty good. Okay, but let's continue on, and we've got to find out about the rest of it." And theoretically, if the downstream improves by 8 percentage points, we may not even have to change anything with the level of the dam. But we won't know that until they go through and do it. But
do the actual survey.
Yeah. So really what in here today is the money for the survey. And I think that's page 33, and it's additional $8,200. And I would suggest that we could pay for this out of CARF. We do, I think CARF, we should be good on it. I don't think we've done CARF down to a zero balance yet. Yeah. Thank you, Clark.
So in order to do this survey, we have already set up an allocation of about 54,000.
Right.
For over the next 6 months to collect for that, right?
Well, no, the 50, well.
There was already 50 something and another 50 something over the next.
30 something.
We spent the first 50, 55.
Right.
We've got another 50 that we need to do for them to do the downstream stuff. This was not included in any of this.
Correct. But if this comes in favorable, do we have savings on the next 50? In other words, if this comes in favorable, and
I think we need to spend the next 50 to see if we can save the 400 on raising the dam. But I think they go in together. I think we need to know, well, let me say that. I think we'll need to prove what elevation our dam is actually at. Even if the downstream gets us to the 75 percentile or 75%, I think we'll still need to prove the elevation of the dam.
So this is in addition to what we're already budgeting for.
I think so, and I do think
This could make a difference, but
the dam's our biggest investment out here.
Yeah.
I mean, it dwarfs the golf course, okay? And I think we've got to take care of it. Rick went down and met with the TCEQ with me, and they're not a happy happy-go-lucky bunch, are they?
Yeah, I mean, I made the comment when they were talking about this 46-inch rain. I said, well, that's got to be way more than a 100-year flood. That sounds to me like a 1,000-year flood. And they said, well, actually, it's closer to 1 in 10,000 year flood.
Wow.
But they said their rules are not changing on this. That's still the way they're going to evaluate it. So.
So to answer your question, Clark, I'll go back and what I would appreciate would be.
Well, I think what you gotta do is wait till you get this survey, and then they look at the results of the survey and tell you whether or not we need to do that additional work.
Yeah, and I'll get with them on that. I think they have already started some of the additional work because it kind of goes, when they did the original bid, all three of those tasks were together because they said they need to be completed together. We broke it into pieces more from a billing standpoint, so to speak. But I will go back. I mean, and this firm has been very professional and straightforward, and had good dealings with.
Yeah, no, they're good.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve 8,200 from CART funds for this survey? Clark moves. Second, Randy seconds. Any other comments or questions? Jim?
Charlie, when you just estimated if it's leveling in another foot and it's estimated it was this $400,000 number was thrown out, that included building a road or redoing the road, or?
They gave a range of, their range was 200,000 to 400,000. So that didn't necessarily include a road. When they laid that concept out to me over the phone, I pulled out my calculator and started saying, okay, if we can do concrete for $10 a square foot, what would it cost to concrete that? That may or may not be needed. It may just be.
Wouldn't you have to raise the road? No, if they raise, to raise the dam, you have to raise the road, right?
You're talking about the road on the other side, the existing road.
Both sides.
Oh, we only have to, I thought there were low spots on the roadside too.
They're showing one, but I don't know that there is. I'll have to go and look at it.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, it's really the boat ramp side. When you're driving in your car or your cart down there tomorrow, look at it and you'll go, that's low.
I was thinking they were saying you had to raise some of the other side.
I don't think so.
But and that question had nothing to do with this.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All in favor of approving this motion? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Okay.
That was a nice presentation.
Do we have additional business before we go to the comments from the members?
I have a couple of things.
Randy?
Number one, Penny has been working down, trying to worry about the pavilion. She's already getting people wanting to reserve the pavilion. We always do the golf schedule a year in advance. Does anybody have a problem with us going back or committee doing it 2 years in advance so we can give her a year to, so somebody doesn't get stepped on top? And we get a little more work on the MGA, the WGA, but like right now, we have the golf schedule all the way for 2020. She's already getting wedding requests for 2021. So she's looking at me and I said, well, can you just go back and just use as a blueprint what they've already done to try to stay on top of it? She's like, I can, but then if somebody changes something, it could really put her in a bind and put somebody in a bind, and I'm just looking out for future.
Right. That's a good idea. Jim?
The idea is good, and I just would like to point out, I mentioned this to Steve, and you shared some ideas on the schedule. Also, I think London Tavern Committee visit some rules around scheduling that, because and getting people to submit the bids so far in advance, and there's not only the bids come up a year in advance, 2 years in advance, but there's regular bids that happen like every week, and there's different rules that apply to these different kinds of requests. So I would recommend it.
Tavern, is that a function of them? Steve?
I just, I don't know what it means. I need to talk about it.
No, I'll
Okay.
The second thing, all y'all here have all volunteered your time as a starter. And everybody in the golf committee was kind of like the Timothy kind of was so excited about it. But now it becomes hotter and stuff. Brown's having a hard time getting volunteers. So the suggestion in the golf committee was, would y'all go thinking in mind, is it worth a part-time position, a paid position, so guaranteed to have somebody there. No action, just something to think about. Is it that important, is it not that important? So I said I would throw it out to you, and so now think about it, and what you gotta do. That's all I got.
Doesn't seem like this COVID thing's going away near as fast as we hoped. So maybe certainly worth considering. Okay, any other business? All right, well, let me handle the questions from our members. So first one's Penny Cotton, lot 5033. What's the rationale justifying the poker manager paid position? I understand the poker group brings in revenue to the lodge, but so do other groups. If you choose to support this paid position, why would you not create paid positions for the leader of other groups that bring in sizable revenue to the lodge, such as the Kiowa Women's Club? My response, and please feel free to add on to this, since the notice of this position came out, the same question has been raised several times, so it makes sense to take a closer look at it, make sure we're somewhat consistent in what is provided to various groups or organizations. The Lodge and Tavern Committee has already been asked to look into this matter. So in light of the current COVID-19 situation, we have some time to look at this before making any further decisions. The poker players aren't going to be here for a while. So as far as the rationale, my understanding is that some of it was history. The position has existed for several years, longer than Mr. Foster has been our community manager. So I don't know exactly how long that's been around. While some of the rationale was that an analysis of the revenue increased during poker nights versus the cost of the position. So we do have many paid staff members that support community activities. The most obvious one is those that would be golf. You know? But the Kiowa Women's Club and many other groups also benefit from employees of the lodge, such as those who set up, clean up, serve, and cook for events. Any other additions anybody want to add to that? Second question was from Lance Deal, lot 1367. It talks about paragraph 3.3.6.4 of the boating and watercraft rules specifically prohibits large wakes and wake surfing. Why isn't this being enforced? There have been at least 4 different boats participating in this activity over the last few weeks. Lake Kiowa is not big enough to handle these wakes, and they are causing noticeable damage to our shores as well as a nuisance when water splashes over our dock. My response, that is exactly correct. We do have a rule. Security has pulled over boats for this violation, but like many things, we don't have the budget to patrol the lake in all places at all times, just as we don't have the budget to check for speeders or other violations at all times. But if members do see someone participating in this activity, it'd be great if they could get a photo of the boat and a lot number and send that in. It would be useful. And there is a form online where members can submit incident reports. The chief is aware of this. She's aware of the damage it can create. Charlie, anything to add?
I think you covered it.
Question. Jim, if there's multiple violations from the same boat, what would take place?
There's escalating fines that dollar amounts that go through it. So I think that, you know, as long as there's people that want to wake surf, there's going to be the nip and tuck of, them wanting to try to sneak it in. So, but what is helpful for us, as Rick alluded to, is specifics. If you can give me a lot number, a date and time, then we'll follow up on it. And the majority of the people cease and desist, and won't be an issue, but specifics are very valuable. So,
Next question comes from Jim Mullen on lot 764. I've asked several questions regarding the 52-acre purchase at the last board meeting. Watching the video of the meeting, several were not answered, but follow-up was promised. No follow-up has occurred, so I ask again, how much did we pay for the 52 acres? Who was it purchased from? In dollars, what does it earn or cost each year? What is the annual rate of return on investment since 2013? So the 52 acres was purchased September 2013 for a price of $285,000 from PJF Enterprises. Its current valuation per the Cook County Appraisal District is $449,000. $449,000. We receive $780 a year in grazing fees versus $145 per year in property taxes, since it does continue to get an agricultural exemption as long as we use it for grazing. So that works out to our favor. And in terms of rate of return, that turns out to be about 8% per year. And if we look at what we put our other available funds into, that's probably our best deal going as far as funds. So it turns out that was a pretty good move, just financially. I know there were issues back when it was done. The Land Use Committee, the Parks and Recreation Committee, and the Long Range Planning Committee are actively working on a long-range plan of possible uses for the land. Public sentiment based on the last survey was to hold the land until the board of directors had a specific need for usage of funds. Another question from Mr. Mullen on 764. Is there a documented process for developing, prioritizing, and scheduling projects for requiring capital expenditures of more than $100,000? And is there a prioritized list of these projects and plan available to the members? So, yes, there is a process spelled out in our covenants and bylaws, which you can find a copy of on the community website. So the process generally begins with Lake Kiowa's Long Range Planning Committee. The long range plan is updated each year and presented to the board of directors for their review and input. In addition, the Long Range Planning Committee conducts a community survey about every other year to gather input, and periodically surveys on specific subjects may also be issued. The Long Range Plan does include a prioritized list of projects and is available on the community website. Members who are interested in the process may volunteer to serve on the Long Range Planning Committee. The board of directors uses a budgeting tool referred to as the project planning tool to determine which projects can be funded each year given projected revenue amounts. In addition, we had a recent change to the bylaws that basically says that to ensure that any project expenditure over $400,000 must be submitted to members for their approval. There are some exceptions listed, such as roads, bridge, drainage repairs, things like that. So you can find that again in our bylaws. Next question is from Gina Rice, lot 845. Why can't we have Trump wreaths on our front door, but we can have political signs on our front yards? I didn't know what a Trump wreath was, so learn something today. So first off, it doesn't have anything to do with supporting President Trump or not. Lake Kiowa's rules regarding political signs are spelled out in our rules and procedures, which each buyer of property agrees to when becoming members of the community. I suppose the rules that when they were first implemented, the rationale was to limit clutter around the community, which is not a bad thing. So the rules relative to this matter are out of Article 3.3.3.6E on political signs. It says political signs may be placed on private property on or after the 90th day before the date of the election to which the sign relates, and must be taken down by the 10th day after the day of the election. All political signs must adhere to the following conditions. 1, signs must be ground mounted only. So a reef on your door is not ground mounted necessarily. Signs containing roofing materials, siding, paving materials, flora, one or more balloons or lights, or any other similar building, landscaping, or non-standard decorative component are prohibited. And then there's a bunch of other caveats in there that didn't particularly apply to Trump wreaths. So the 2020 presidential election is scheduled for November 3rd, 2020. So 90 days prior to that is August 5th. And then Sam pointed out that the Lake Kiowa rule on political signs is written to be in compliance with the Texas Election Code, Title 15, Chapter 259. In fact, our rule is practically verbatim. So this chapter is specifically for POAs. So that's the history of that. Let's see, I think this is our last one. It's from Laura Dickinson, lot 1656. Can we clean up the beach by the lodge and maybe add some sand? Took my granddaughter there and it was pretty dirty. So this response came from Jim Fox, chairman of the Parks and Recreation Committee. At the last Parks and Recreation meeting, we had an agenda item to begin talking about West Beach improvement ideas. The committee is planning on having an on-site meeting on July 27th at the West Beach to review conditions and further assess possible improvements. We can look at the sand issue at that time. It was mentioned at the last meeting that the beach area is looking a little rough and could probably use some new sand. If beach sand is needed on a periodic basis, it may be appropriate to include a line item in our schedule to fund beach refurbishment in the future. So, response to that. Jim, anything to add to that?
Again, we'll look at it and see what we're recommending. I don't know if there's any history that Charlie has on replacing or adding sand or whatever. I understood that the East Beach, it just washes away water. If you put it out here, it will last a little bit longer. So is there any?
Since I've been here, we haven't added any sand for just the reason that you said is if we put it out there, it ends up in the lake. We have to dredge it out there, but I think that's a decision we can, we can look at. I think from my perspective, I mean, we're a lake in Texas, and I think our beaches are similar to state park type of beaches and things like that. But I think that'll be, if we want to do that, I think Parks and Rec probably ought to talk to the lake management committee and get synchronized from them, because you don't want to be at odds with those guys and say, yeah, so.
Yep. So there never has been any sand placed out through the shore.
Since I've been here. So never's a long
time. It does
time.
seem like there's some sand.
We groom it twice a week, and we've got a tractor that's got a rake on it. They come and they'll try to pull it out of the water as best that they can and do that. So as a side note, I've spent time in the lake this weekend, and you know what our lake bottom is like? It's mucky. So you'll sink into it and muck. So I think that, that's what we're wrestling with and fighting against. So.
Okay, so we are going to have an executive session next. So we need to, let's see if we get it right this time. If we call, we are going out of regular session now. So we need a motion to go out of regular session into executive session. Do we have such a motion? Sam moves. Do we have a second? Randy? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Okay. Now we are officially in executive session.